Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. October 10th, 5 years after the QB attack. How could they do this to me? Thought a boy with sun-kissed blonde hair, wearing a white shirt and blue pants as he ran towards a forest. Why is he running into a forest, you ask? To answer that, let's start at the beginning. During his and his siblings' birth, a masked man attacked the village using the Kyuubi, but his father Minato Namikaze and the fourth Hokage use a special seal and separate the yin and yang chakra and put it inside his younger sister, whereas the soul was put in his younger brother to act as a medium for the chakra. After that was said and done, the supposed seal did not take Minato's soul but spared him due to some technicality in it. He then told the people what has happened and announced that his children be treated as heroes because of it. The crowd cheered for their savior, but unknown to them they have already forgotten their firstborn child. Back to the present, this child that was running is that forgotten child. His name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and all his life he wanted nothing more than recognition because throughout his life he was ignored and pushed aside because of his younger siblings. With it, his parents did not care for him, and so did the villagers. Every time his siblings were treated like royalty while he was the extra baggage, and his parents were no different, as when he suggested something, they would choose his siblings over him, and they even forgotten his birthday. But today was the day that broke the dam in his heart. Today was his and his siblings' birthdays, but as usual only he was forgotten, sans a few who were Asuma, Guy, Kurenai, Anko, Itachi, Makoto, Hiruzen, Yugao, and even the Ikirakus. Even his godparents Jiraiya and Tsunade forgotten him, but for different reasons, as the former thought about a prophecy and thought he was not it, while the latter couldn't get over the death of her younger brother and sees the same thing inside him, and because of it she couldn't look at him in the eye. While he was getting presents from the people he knows, his parents announced that his sister will take both the Uzumaki and Namikaze seats respectively, while his brother will be trained to become the Hokage, and it didn't help that his godparents decided to let them sign their summoning contract. And with that broke the dam in his heart as he ran towards the forest, not caring about everything, as he cried all the way straight into a cave. Once he stopped, he looked in awe as he saw a small lake in the cave, and in the middle was 6 swords stabbed into the ground and a scroll in front of it. He slowly walked towards it as he saw a tombstone that said this: "Here lies the one-eyed dragon of the north." As soon as he said that, the swords glowed for a while before dying down, revealing a man with medium-length brown hair with an eye patch on his right eye. He was wearing a blue kimono with gold dragon design. He eyed the kid and then asked him this: "What are you doing here, kid? This place is dangerous, so go back to your mommy, okay?" "Would love to, but they don't care about me," said Naruto. The man raised his eyebrow, and Naruto then told him about his life, and the man was shocked to hear about him, and he thought about it before telling him this. "Hey kid, do you want to learn from me?" Naruto raised his head as he continued. "Your life is kinda same as mine, cause my mother didn't want me to become head, and I can see you have determination in your eyes, so how about it, kid? You want to learn how to become like me?" Naruto then hugged him while crying out yes until he calmed down. "So what is your name?" "Mine is Naruto Uzu, just Naruto," he said grimly. "Well kid, my name is Masamune Date and I am the one-eyed dragon. Now that introduction is out of the way, are gonna train you in Taijutsu and Kenjutsu, while the summons will train you in Nin, Gen and Funjutsu." "You have a summons?" Naruto shouted. With a grin, Date said, "Yep, so put your guns on because tomorrow starts your training from hell." Naruto then gulped. Time skip graduation test. The sun shone down on Konoha as one Naruto woke up from his bed with a smile. Why? Because today was the day he could drop his silly mask and graduate to become a shinobi. He now stood at a good 4 feet 15 with a medium-length blonde hair like Date. His face was voided of fat and his body was that of many girls' wet dreams, 6 packs with no indication of fat. As he ran towards cave, He thought about what happened in the past year. He met Date and got his summons. The training was tough as Date trained his body to its peak and even taught him how to wield his swords, while the summons taught him Nin, Gen and Funjustu, and he did well in all of them, especially Funjustu, as he had a knack for it. He went into the cave and saw Date with a smirk on his face as he saw his surrogate brother running towards him, but also sad because of what is gonna happen. "Hey kid, how are you?" said Date. "Fine, because I am gonna take some names and kick some," answer Naruto. "That's good kid, but today I gotta go, but don't cry kid, because I am next to you no matter where you are." Naruto looked sad at the declaration, but that did not deter him, and he gave Date a hug and said thank you. Date gave Naruto his eye patch and hated him his dragon claws as well as new threads. "Take care kid, and take care of the younger summons, would ya?" "Sure." And with that he faded away. Naruto looked at the clothes and put it on and the eye patch on his left eye, while his waist had the 6 swords that Date gave him. Then he headed to school. When he headed to class, he heard that his teacher Iruka was trying to calm the class down, and being a helpful guy that he is, cough cough, he kicked the door down, and with it the class went silent as they saw Naruto walked in his new clothes. I don't know how to describe Date clothes, but it is his battle armor without the helmet, and left part of the clothing is black while the right side is white. As he walked in, some of the girls drool a little because of his new look except for one. "What do you think you are doing, Naruto Baka? Do you think you can be cool like Sasuke is?" shouted the pink-hair banshee who was named Sakura. "Shut it bitch, cause I think the people from Kumo could hear you." Which shocked the class even more because they thought that he had a crush on her. "What?" was all she could say before anyone said anything else. Iruka quieted down the class to start the test. Everyone's mind was on the changes of Naruto, especially two who were his younger sister, which were Narumi Uzumaki Namikaze and Naruko Uzumaki Namikaze. "Ni-san, what happened to you?" said Naruko. She had a shoulder-long hair which was yellow in color like her father. Unlike what most people think, she wanted to be Naruto so that he doesn't get left out, but couldn't because of her fans and her parents and godparents' training, so she couldn't find the time to talk to him, and when she did he just disappeared to thin air. "Looks like he managed to get his act straight, but he will still probably screw this up. Why did he have to be born into our family?" thought one Narumi Uzumaki Namikaze. She had a waist-long red hair just like her mother, but she has always berated her older brother because he could not do anything but pranks around the village, and because of it she thinks it is breaking up the family. "HNNN, like the new look is gonna do any good, you failure," said one Kenzo Uzumaki Namikaze. He has red hair like his mother, but it was untamed like his father, but his personality is that of a pampered brat, and because of it even his sisters don't like him. "Now we will start the written test," said Iruka as he handed out the papers. "I am gonna skip this until the fight because nothing noteworthy happens here. Now would Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzu." "Wait," Naruto said, interrupting Iruka. "My full name is Naruto Date, not that useless name," he declared boldly, and the others were shocked again because of it. "Okay. Would Naruto Date come to the ring?" Both fighters were at the ring as they square off. "So, Dobi, are you ready to lose?" said a duck-haired boy who is Sasuke Uchiha, one of the few survivors of the Uchiha massacre by the hands of his older brother Itachi Whoed, all but him, his mother and a few others, and like Kenzo he was spoiled rotten because of it, and it turned him into a guy with a god complex who demands that everything is given to him on a silver platter. "Nope, duck butt, so let's rock baby." Iruka then started the match, and then Sasuke charged with a punch to the face, but Naruto sidestepped and knee him in the gut. Sasuke stumbled a little and Naruto capitalized by giving him a chop to the neck, knocking him out. Silence swept across the field as the so-called dead last beat one of the Rookie of the Year in less than a few seconds. The class went back in as they headed for their ninjutsu test, which was the Bunshin, Henge and the Kamawari. "Narumi, Naruto and Kenzo did it perfectly, but they had to use the Kage Bunshin as a substitute because of their high chakra coils. Naruto did his perfectly also by henge into Iruka, switching places with Sasuke and doing two perfect Bunshin also. Iruka nodded at this and gave him his hiate, and he went home for the night as he waited for his team placement tomorrow. Uzumaki Namikaze Mansion. Kushina Uzumaki was humming a tune as she was preparing a celebratory dinner for her children Narumi, Naruko and Kenzo, but her mind drifted for a second to Naruto. She frowned as she thought about her firstborn, as she remembered that she did not spend any time with him because of the younger siblings' training, and it hit her. She did not spend any time with him because they keep pushing him aside and keep taking his brother or sister's idea instead of his. How could I neglected my own son like this? I'm a horrible mother. I hope that's not too late to make it up to him. She thought to herself as she makes the family favorite ramen for everybody and then try to get Naruto back into the family. As night time came and everybody was at the table and Kushina set the food on their table before she realized that Naruto was missing. Where's Naruto? He should have been back by now, asked Kushina. Who knows? He's probably lost or something, who cares? Answer Kenzo. Kushina was shocked at how her son said like that about his own brother, and as she was about to scold him, Minato said, "Don't say stuff that you don't know about. Maybe he's out with friends or something and forgot to tell us." So, he's been nothing but a failure to the family. I don't even know how the teacher even let him pass. He passed, said a shocked Kushina. Yeah, but he's nothing before the son of the Yellow Flash, said Kenzo proudly. That might be true, but if he could stop goofing off, maybe he could at least learn something and maybe even be trained by mom and dad, said Narumi. But he beat Sasuke in a few seconds and earned his hiate. Don't you think that counts for something? Naruto told them. Big deal. I could do that blindfolded and he probably just got lucky, countered Kenzo. He's probably right, Narumi. I mean, he did nothing more than just playing pranks and goofing off, so how could he have beaten Sasuke, who was tied with Kenzo for Rookie of the Year? Was probably just that, dumb luck. Before the talk could escalate, an Anbu came into the room telling the Hokage this, Hokage-sama, someone stole the forbidden scroll and we confirm that it was Mizuki. What? Hurry up and find him. Sorry Kushina, I have to go, Minato said, and he disappeared in a yellow flash. No way, I'm gonna sit this one out. Come on Narumi, Naruko, let's go, we can take care of this, said Kenzo. Wait, you are not going out there, mister. You are staying right here while I try to find where Naruto is, just to make sure he's safe, Kushina said to them as she went out, but not before locking the whole house in seals to prevent them from trying any funny business. She went to the forest because she had a feeling that Naruto is there, so she followed it, and once she reached there she heard what sounded like fighting. When she got there, she was shocked at the sight of, because there he was, Naruto facing off with a 7-foot-tall humanoid tiger who was bleeding profusely all over his body because of the cuts in a stump where his left arm should be, and Naruto was grinning with a sword dripping with blood on his right hand. Naruto, a few minutes ago. Naruto was walking down the road back to his so-called home, if he could call it that, since they always ignored him his whole life, so he decided to take the long way home when a blur passed by him and was heading towards the forest. Smirking, he decided to follow it, thinking something is about to happen. When the blur stopped at a nearby shed, Naruto saw that it was Mizuki, who was talking to a couple of ninja with a musical note on their headband, and that he had a scroll and was ready to give to them before he took action, as he jumped and slammed his sword to the ground, calling out, "Phantom Dive," and an electrical shockwave went right at them and knocked them out by surprise. They recovered and saw Naruto standing in front of them, smirking at them while tapping his sword on his shoulder. Mizuki laughed, saying this, "Ha, it's just the failure of the fourth Hokage's son, don't worry, he isn't anything. Says the guys who got blown away a few minutes ago," countered Naruto. That was just a lucky shot. A fresh out of school genin can't beat a chunin like me along with two more chunin. Mizuki said with a smug on his face, but that look soon faded when all of a sudden Naruto appeared in front of him and gave a downward slash. Sadly he barely dodged it, but he still got a shallow cut from the shoulder to the waist. One of the sound nin threw shuriken at me while the other charged at me with a kunai on hand. Naruto used the sword to deflect the shuriken and then clash with the one with a kunai. Mizuki joined in by throwing a Fuma shuriken in Naruto, but he pushed the sound nin and slash upward to cut the Fuma shuriken in half. The sound nin shouted out, "Sound decapitating waves," and a burst of wind comes straight at Naruto. He countered by blocking it pushed it to one knee. "Well, is that all you got?" said one of the sound nin. "Not to worry, this dragon still got plenty of scales," Naruto said, and then jumped back, then took out 3 swords in one hand and thrust them forward with speeds that they couldn't see as he voiced out, "Magnum step," and one of the sound nin got caught in it and was skewered by the swords. Then Naruto threw him up, still impaled by his swords, to the sky, shouting out, "Death Fang," as the sound nin was ripped apart by the swords. The other sound nin tried to run away, but Naruto quickly sheathed 2 of his swords and suddenly he charged his sword as lightning surged through it, and all of a sudden he shot a lightning ball out from it and said, "Hell Dragon." The ball hit the sound nin and the sound nin screamed in pain as the ball of lightning hit him and fried into a crisp. Mizuki saw both of his partners goaded by a genin without any problem. He stood his ground before Naruto looked at him while still wearing that smirk on his face, and he told him this, "So Mizuki, do you want to give up or do you still want to tango with me? Don't get why, you brat. I will show you the power that was bestowed to me by Lord Orochimaru." Mizuki told Naruto as he took a vial of liquid from his pocket and drank it. He then turned into a 7-foot-high humanoid tiger with a white fur and black stripes. "Huh. Well, come on kitty, let's play." Naruto taunted as he gave a come on sign with his hands. Mizuki charged at him and attempted to slash him with his claws, but Naruto rolled underneath it and then he jumped, giving a downward slash. Mizuki put his arm to block it, thinking it would help him, but then the sword cut his arm like a hot knife through butter. Mizuki screamed as his arm dropped on the ground and his remaining arm clutched his now stumped of an arm. Using the distraction, Naruto charged at him and then slashed him multiple times with 4 swords -2 on each hands, then ending with a cross sweep as he called out his move, Crazy Storm, and with it, Mizuki's body was riddled with slash marks, but that didn't him, but it did make him drop onto his knees. He then groggily tried to stand up as he glared at the boy in front of him as said boy was grinning at his misfortune. Present time. Kushina stared in shock as her son was facing off with a monster, and as she was about to help him, the monster roared and charged at him while Naruto was still grinning at it and then charged, challenging his confrontation, and then a streak of lightning shone down as both of them clash, and then they were on opposite end like in those final showdown samurai movies. Naruto grunted a little as Mizuki smirked as he thought he won, but suddenly he dropped to the ground as his neck had a deep cut and he was bleeding out from it. "Here lies Mizuki dead at the hands of a genin. Guess that would be good on a tombstone. Oh well, time to pack up and go home." Naruto then turned to see his mother standing there in shock, and also there was his father along with his Anbu analyzing the carnage there. His father asked, "What the hell happened here?" And all Naruto said was this, "HMPH, it is as you see right here, the one-eyed dragon has slain his first few victims and he's itching for more, while lightning strike as it's shown behind him." And with that, the one-eyed dragon returns. After the Mizuki incident, Naruto was taken to the tower for questioning and right now he is finishing it. Let's see how it goes. And that's about it anyway. "We done yet?" said a bored Naruto. Minato was looking at his son with a critical eye as he was comprehending the situation, then he gave a big sigh and said, "So Mizuki stole the forbidden scroll and you saw this?" followed him to the forest where he was talking to ninjas that had a musical note on his hiate which you engage all three of them anded them correct. Yes, why'd them okay, can I go now cause I need to catch some sleep? Said an annoyed Naruto. Okay, you may go for now but we will talk again later alright Naruto. As soon as he finished that, Naruto just flashed out of there shocking those inside. Minato, did you teach Naruto the Hiraishin? Asked Kushina. No I didn't Kushina. Then how did he do that? But unknown to them there was a small crow outside their room who disappeared with a poof while the occupants inside tried to ponder where he got that just you. Naruto's room. A flash shone in the room as Naruto appeared from it when a tinge hit his head a little. Well too bad I didn't have a camera because that look on their faces was priceless. All well time to catch some Z's. Morning. Classroom. Naruto got to class and found out there he was the only one there first so he waited for the rest to come. After a while, the students started to come in and most of them were heirs to their respective clans. Well except for the Howler Monkey, those who came in were Shikamaru Nara who has his hair tied back like a pineapple, Choji Akamichi a chubby person who always has a snack in his hands, Shino Abarain who always wears his dark sunglasses and a jacket that covers everything except the top part of his face. Next was Shino Abarain, a boy who wears dark sunglasses with a coat that covers everything except the top part of his face. Hinata Hyuga came in next wearing a big coat. She used to be a shy girl but after hanging out with Narumi and Naruko she managed to get some confidence in her. Another to come in was the Inuzuka heir, Kiba. He wore a jacket with a hood and he had two red fang painting on his face, on top of his head was his partner Akamaru. Then came Duck Butt Sasuke Uchiha with his brooding face on. Next came the two loudmouths of the class Ino and Sakura and lastly came the Uzumaki Namikaze trio. Ino and Sakura continued to argue until Naruto slammed the table and shouted to the heavens, "Will you two shut the hell up? Jez, are you both dumb and blind because he is sitting in the middle you twits and that means that there are two seats next to him which are empty so would you two just sit down and shut up before I swear to all that is Kami I will show you my dragon claws up close and personal got it." To which they quickly sat down and shut up. On cue, Iruka then came in and looked on to his students with some pride on his face as he announced the team placement. "All right class, I am proud to be called your teacher and may the will of fire burn brightly in you okay team 1 will be." Skipping unimportant people, team 7 will be Sasuke, Sakura and Sai. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the last name but was put out of it when the Banshee shouted something about true love and he unleashed some of his ki on her. She turned to see him glaring at her so she did the smart thing which was to shut up and sit down. As I was saying, Team 7 Sensei will be Jin Uchiha. Team 8 will be Kiba, Hinata and Shino under Kurenai while Team 9 is still in circulation so Team 10 will be Ino, Shikamaru and Choji whose sensei will be Asuma. Naruto sensed a dread coming in as he hoped that his sixth sense could be wrong this time but sadly it is not. And lastly will be Team 11 will be a 4-man cell with 2 Junin because the numbers aren't balanced so this team will have Narumi, Naruko, Kenzo and Naruto who will be under Kushina and Kakashi. In which the Uzumaki Namikaze trio smiled at this while Naruto slumped to his seat and grumbled. A few minutes later the Junins came and picked up their students. Among them were a raven-haired beauty with red eyes wearing what look like bandages around her body, a smoker who has a cloth with the word fire tied around his waist, the one next was wearing a bandana and has a sword on his back and he had a kid next to him who has pale skin and he looked like he had no emotion to which Naruto smirked, "Well, this is interesting. So this is your move huh you one-eyed mummy. Oh well. One more burned root won't make much of a difference to me but let's see how it goes first." Lastly, two people came in, both wearing normal Junin attire, but one of them has gravity-defying hair and a mask that covers his lower face, and his height was slanted to cover his left eye, while the other has a waist-long red hair with a sword on her back. Team 7 on the roof, and with that everybody went to the roof. As everybody got ready on the roof, Kushina started the conversation. Okay, even though we know each other, we still need to do the introductions like this. My name is Kushina Uzumaki. My like are my family, my friends, and ramen. My dislikes are perverts, rapists, scumbags, and girls who give kunoichi a bad name, and my dream is already done, so I don't have any. Alright then, my name is Kakashi Hatake. My likes, my dislikes, and my dreams, haven't thought about it. And with that everybody, even Naruto, had to sweat drop at that introduction. Okay, I go first. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and my likes are my family and my friends. My dislikes are the same as you, mom, and my dream is to be the best kunoichi in the world just like you. Kushina smiled at her daughter's conviction. Next is me. My name is Narumi Uzumaki Namikaze. My likes are my friends, my family to some extent, and people who are serious about becoming shinobi. My dislikes are the same as Naruto, but adding in my two brothers and people who don't take things seriously. My dream is to be a successful kunoichi and clan head. Che, how did I get a boring person on my team? Anyway, my name is Kenzo Uzumaki Namikaze. My likes are my family somewhat, ramen and learning cool justice. My dislikes is a certain blonde failure in our family, and my dream is to be the Hokage and kick said blondes. Said Kenzo with a smirk as Naruto just flipped him the bird, while Naruto and Kushina were sad because of his deceleration. Guess I'm last then. Name's Naruto. Date my likes. That's for me to know and you guys to never find out. My dislikes are a certain family, people who's all talk and no bite, and a few more to be told another time. And my dream, that's easy because my dream is to be famous. Naruto and Kushina was curious because of the change in his name, but they knew it had to do something with it, as they were quite sad when they heard his dislike for their family. Alright, now that's out of the way. Tomorrow is your real genin test, so come to training ground 7 at 8 sharp, and if I were you, don't eat any breakfast, Yane. Kakashi said, and then disappear in a swirl of leaves. The rest of them stared at the space he was at a minute ago and just shrugged at it. Alright, who wants to go and have lunch since it's still early? Asked Kushina. Sorry, gonna take a rain check, Kushina-sama. Got some stuff to see ya. Naruto said as he walked down the steps, but without noticing the face made by Kushina and also Naruto. Whatever, loser. Come on, mom. Naruto, let's ditch the dork. Kenzo said, and with that the family went on their day without Naruto, which saddened both Kushina and Naruto as they prepare for tomorrow. Training ground 7 next day. Everybody was at the training ground as they waited for one more person who is one of their teacher. If Kakashi doesn't get here soon, I am gonna burn his entire collection right in front of him, said Kushina dangerously as her hair flared into 9 tails, which unnerved the genin a little, except Naruto, who was lying on a nearby tree branch. Kakashi came soon enough, and with an eye smile he greeted his team before inching away from Kushina as she was drawing her sword slowly. Thinking quickly, Kakashi quickly took out a clock and explained to the genin that they had to get the bells before noon or they would fail, and if one of them didn't get it, they would have to go back to the academy. Okay, that's about it, so ready, Hajime. Kakashi said, and everybody quickly jumped away and hid. Kakashi walked towards Kushina and started to chat with her while alert about his surroundings. So Kushina, how do you think they will do? I'm not sure, Kakashi. Narumi and Kenzo doesn't want to work with Naruto because they still think that he is still a weak person, but Naruto might since she has been trying to talk to him, and I'm not sure about Naruto at all. Don't worry about Naruto. I'm sure he'll put aside his differences and help them in a way, but I wouldn't hope much from him because from what I can tell from his results, he is somewhat weak. Kushina looked shocked at Kakashi's description of her son and was about to answer him before a giggle caused them to look at the tree where Naruto was sitting under reading the all-famous book that everybody knows. You know, if this has more plotline than the unwanted, then Jiraiya would be more famous and won't get his kicked so much by the female population. But then again, this book is written by a pervert who couldn't get any and has been chasing the same girl since his genin days only to be denied every time. Oh well, it is a shame I have to burn this though. After all, it is to my number one fan Kakashi Hatake, signed by the great Toad Sage Jiraiya. Naruto said with a smirk. Kakashi's only eye bulged wide open as he felt his back pocket only to realize that there was nothing there. He looked at him nervously and asked, "How did you get it? I didn't even notice it missing." Now that would be telling. So what's it gonna be, Kakashi? Your book or the bells that you have? And if you try anything funny, I put inside here an explosive note, so I suggest you think about your options very carefully now. Naruto told them while leaking out his ki to show that he was serious, which shocked the two a little as they didn't think that a genin could produce ki like this. Now Kakashi was in trouble. If he gave the bell to him, no doubt that Kushina would just continue what he started, and he didn't, then he would do it himself, and it did not help that the book he was holding was a signed limited edition while Kushina had a glare at him that said, "Go ahead and try it." Kakashi was sweating bullets at the situation as his head was thinking, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? But before anything else happened, a small chime was heard and both of them turned around to see Naruko holding the bells in her hand. "How?" was all Kakashi could say. "Easy. I use mying intent to mask Naruko's presence so she could sneak up on you guys to grab the keys, simple as that," Naruto said nonchalantly. "But how did you get Naruko to work together with you?" Kushina asked. "Shadow clones," was all he said. They both looked at him and wondered how he managed to learn such a just you, but they saved it for later as Kenzo and Narumi came out of the forest with a scowl on the former while the latter is glad to have passed, but she didn't like the way it was done. "All right, Naruko, so who are you gonna give the bells to?" asked Kushina. I think I will give it to Naruto, Narumi and Kenzo because they probably deserved it more than me," said a very timed Naruko. Kakashi just smiled at them and said, "You passed." The three look on in shock as Kakashi started to explain about the test, and by the end of the day Team 11 was formed, but unknown to all of them someone was watching them in the shadows. 3 weeks later. Since its formation, Team 11 has been doing D-ranked missions around the village, such cleaning trash, painting houses and such, but the highlight of it all was that they beat the time it takes to capture Tora, the Daimyo wife's cat, or in the minds of all genin the cat demon from hell. And how did they manage to capture such a beast in just 20 minutes? Well, let's just say that only 2 people in the group knows how to handle the cat, and said 2 are doing it right now as they finish the mission once again in record time in the mission room. A purring sound was heard in the room as the so-called demon cat from hell was acting like a normal cat. Why? Because Naruto and Naruko were petting it carefully, and from the sound of it the cat was liking it, while the occupants in the room had only one thought: how did they manage to make it act like that? They were brought out of their muse when a shriek was heard and a big woman came rushing in with a smile on her face as she grabbed the cat and put it in a tight hug. The cat was trying to get out of the vice-like grip of the woman as some of the occupants in the room were having some, thoughts towards the cat. "That's right, tighter, tighter. Squeeze the life put of that miserable cat. I'd almost feel sorry for the cat if it didn't scratch me so hard on my face." "All right, Team 11, what mission will you have today? Trimming trees, painting houses, or, Tora come back?" "Catching Tora again," said Hiruzen as he was in charge of the mission's handout. "All right, old man, I've had it up to here. We've been doing chores for 3 weeks now. We are ready for some high-ranking mission, not stuff that the civilians are too lazy to do. said a pissed off Kenzo as he and the others were sick of doing this but they just shut up about it. Hiruzen took a puff of smoke as he looked on at the genin and then he asked, "What do you guys think? I'm sure that we can handle a low C-ranked mission after all," said Kakashi. Hiruzen was skeptical about it but then he relented and motioned towards a door. The door opened to reveal an old man holding a bottle of sake in his hands. Hiruzen then explained the mission to them. Once he finished, the old man who was known as Tanzuna decided to make a comment. "I ask for protection and this is all I get. A scarecrow, 2 girls, a guy who looks like he has a pole up his, a tomato and, well, you look good especially the eye patch." Kakashi had to restrain Kenzo from the client and Kushina was barely restraining herself. Naruto was grinning, then walked towards the man and said to him, "You know it's not nice to drink sake like that." "What? You some kind of monk or something?" asked Tanzuna with an eyebrow raised. "No, what I mean is that you shouldn't drink sake like that without sharing it with me," Naruto told him as everybody was shocked at this but Tanzuna just grinned and gave him the bottle to which Naruto accepted and took a big swig of it. Snapping out of their stupor, Kakashi told them to meet at the gate at 8.30 and with that everybody headed back to prepare for their first mission. Gate entrance 8.30. Team 11 was standing in front of the gate as they waited for both their Jonin sensei to arrive but they thought Kakashi will be late so they brought some things to pass the time but imagine their surprise that their lazy teacher was on time. Some of them thought it was a genjutsu but when they saw Kushina next to him they put some of the pieces together as to why he was early and with that they went on their journey not knowing the dangers of this mission. The group traveled along the road in a diamond formation with Tanzuna in the middle while Naruto was in front with Narumi and Naruko flanking both sides and Kenzo took the back while Kakashi and Kushina hang back a little. They then noticed a puddle on the side of the road as one thought was on the minds of the group except Tanzuna and Kenzo somewhat. All of a sudden 2 ninjas came out from the puddle and used a chain to skewer both Kakashi and Kushina. "Heh 2 down, 4 to go," one of the ninja said with a smirk. But that soon disappeared as Kenzo threw a kunai in the middle of the chain thus forcing them to let it go as they engage in a fight with them. Naruko jumped out of the way as one of them struck her first. She countered by throwing shuriken at him but he blocked them with his gauntlet by he failed to notice Narumi as she used her mother's famous chakra chains to grab his legs. He tried to struggle but he couldn't get out of the chains was knocked out by Naruko with a chop to the neck whereas Kenzo parried the gauntlet with the sword he sealed into his arm before kicking the guy in the chest. "Ha! Someone like you can't hope to beat me the son of the Hokage," Kenzo said proudly while the ninja gritted his teeth before being chained up by Narumi and Naruko using their chakra chains. It was then Kakashi and Kushina came out from the bushes and congratulated them on a job well done. They then soon found out that Tanzuna was lying about the mission ranked by inserting his sob story on how Gato took over Wave and whatnot. Afterwards Kakashi asked if they should continue and all of them agreed which Tanzuna was grateful for. Shoreline. As the group walked towards the village through the forest, a rustling noise was heard and on instinct Kenzo threw a kunai at it. Naruko went in only to come out petting a white rabbit. "Well, congratulations Kenzo, you almost had your first," said Narumi sarcastically to which Kenzo just stuck his tongue out at her while Kakashi was in deep thought about the rabbit when a whistling sound was heard and Kakashi's widened his eyes at it. "Get down," he shouted as he and Kushina tackled everybody to the ground but Naruto just tilted his head back to allow the thing embedded itself onto a tree. As they regained their footing, they saw that the thing was a big sword embedded to the tree and on top of it was a man who has bandages covering his lower face, white arm warmers and his height was facing his left side while the logo had a gash across it. Well, if it isn't Kakashi of the Sharingan and the Red Hot Habanero. "I'm honored to have the pleasure of fighting you guys but you shouldn't have brought some genin on this mission, who knows what might happen to them," said the man. Zabuza Momochi of the Hidden Mist, an A-ranked missing nin. What are you doing here? Asked Kakashi. A job, of course. Gato decided to hire me to the bridge builder over there, so if you don't mind, hand him over unless you have a death wish. I don't scare easy because I am the son of the Hokage, you know, eyebrow freak, said Kenzo with a smirk on his face. Well then, how about this? Hidden mist justu, said Zabuza as a thick mist covered the area. Stomach, brain, spine, heart, lungs, liver, larynx, these are some of the few places you can a human with, so which one should I choose to you with? Zabuza said to them with excitement in the mist while unleashing his ki, which scared Kenzo, Naruto and Narumi, while Naruto just smirked as his blood boiled with excitement. Kakashi flared some of his ki and told them to calm down as he used a wind just you to clear the mist, but that was a mistake as he and Kushina didn't realize that Zabuza was already poised to strike. Before they could say anything, Zabuza suddenly got stabbed in the stomach and everyone was shocked to see a sword sticking out of his chest. They followed the sword to see Naruto wielding it, but then Zabuza turned into water and then it splashed onto the ground to only then reappear behind Naruto mid-swing and slice him in half. Naruto! Kushina shouted because of the sight she saw as her son was cut in half, but only to see a poof of smoke that was in the place of her son. She sighed in relief at the scene but was distracted for a moment as Zabuza came out of nowhere ready to cut her in half with an overhead strike, but before he knew it, his sword was blocked by the kid that stabbed his water clone earlier. Not bad kid, but you left your teammates with my water clone over there. Naruto just smirked, which Zabuza raised an eyebrow somewhat on his face before a splash was heard as he turned to see the clone turned into a puddle, in which he gave Naruto an opening to capitalize as he kicked Zabuza straight in the chest. That kick sent him flying a couple of feet before he managed to stop his momentum. I see that some of you have some skill, so what's your name, kid? Me. I am the one-eyed dragon of Konoha. Naruto date, and these bad boys are my swords, the dragon claws, and they are itching for some blood. Ha ha ha. Not a bad introduction. My sword here is Kubikiribocho and is as hungry for some flesh. Zabuza told him with a smirk on his face, which was matched by Naruto's own, and with that, they charged at each other, clashing their blades as the group watched in awe. Just how strong is Naruto and how did he manage to get this strong? Wondered Kushina as she saw Naruto blocking an overhead strike and countered by unsheathing another sword on his other hand to give a slash to his chest, but he pushed him before the strike could connect and both of them clash in a deadlock only to push each other off, and they stare at each other as they size themselves up on their opponent, looking for any weaknesses in them. It's been a while since I got a real sword fight, so bring it, kid, said Zabuza. Since you ask so nicely, let's go. Phantom Dive. Naruto told him as he used this skill, and a shockwave of electricity headed for Zabuza. His eyes widened a little and he jumped to the side only to see three swords coming at him as he heard a cry of Magnum Step. It took Zabuza a moment to react it as he hefted his blade to his chest to block the attack, but before he knew it the attack thrusted him to the lake, which he hoped he'd drown in it, but instead his body skid on the water. He then stood up, quickly ran through some hand signs and then called out, "Water style, water dragon justu." A dragon made of water came out of the lake heading towards Naruto, but he did something no one else thought he could. He jumped on top of the dragon and started water skating on it, which shocked everybody there. Even Zabuza has his eyes wide open at that. What the hell is this kid? Thought Zabuza as he blocked an overhead strike. He countered with a wide swing upwards, to which Naruto leaned back, allowing it to pass by him before he landed on top of the water and charged at Zabuza, as he now was dual wielding using quick strikes on Zabuza, but the sword couldn't cut through the makeshift shield of Zabuza's Kubikiribocho, but he managed to prevent him from using any just you. That soon ended as Zabuza pushed him away for a moment as he created a couple of water clones to charge at him while he prepared his Just You, but Naruto was having none of that as he fired a hell dragon towards the clones which shredded them apart. Zabuza only had a moment as he managed to dodge the attack, but only for Naruto to appear in front of him with a smirk as he said this. This is the end, crazy storm. Zabuza had no chance as Naruto slashed at him, continuously cutting him at every part of his body. He screamed in agony before Naruto ended it with a cross sweep, sending his body back to shore, crashing some trees along the way before he stopped. Naruto walked towards Zabuza to see the carnage he created, which was a bloodied Zabuza, but noticed that he was barely still alive. He was about to deal the final blow. A pair of senbons struck his neck, thusing him, and a masked hunter nin appeared in front of him. Thank you for wounding him for me. I have been hunting him for a while, but because I was not strong enough to take him down, so I thank you for helping me, said the masked nin in a neutral tone. Naruto eyed the person and his eyes widened a bit before he smirked. He turned to walk away as he turned his head back a little before telling the person this. No problem, Hunter-chan. You just make sure that Zabuza is back to 100% so we could have a real swordsman match, because I really know what it feels like to match up against a swordsman of the mist. See ya. The masked nin widened her eyes before she quickly shunshin out of there with Zabuza's body. Naruto walked down to see his so-called team and senseis heading towards him. What the hell, loser? Why the hell did you take away my fight? Said Kenzo before he was hit on the head by Naruto. Naruto, what happened to Zabuza? Asked a concerned Kakashi. After breakfast, the team find themselves in the forest nearby Tanzuna's house as Kakashi started explaining their task for the day. Alright, today we are going to do some training just in case Zabuza decides to attack, but that won't be for a while, so let's get started. Naruto and Narumi will go train with Kushina in your Kenjutsu, while Kenzo I am gonna train you in some elemental attack. Naruto, you are gonna start climbing trees to work on your chakra control, said Kakashi, to which Naruto looked at him with a deadpan face. Wow, for a so-called former Anbu captain, your observation skills, but then again reading those books could make any virgin man dumb and blind cause they are too busy to find a real woman. Where did I and Zabuza fight on, cause I was pretty sure it wasn't dry land. They girls were giggling at him while Kushina was laughing her of, hell, even Kenzo smirked a little at his expense. Kakashi's eye twitched a little before he thought back to the fight and his eyes widened in surprise, which Naruto saw and gave him a smirk. Then he said, that's right, I was walking on water, you idiot. Hell, I was skating on top of Zabuza's water dragon when we were fighting. Water skating, you hear? Kakashi hung his head down because of that deceleration, but then Naruto continued, so just leave me alone to train by myself and we'll be all good since you guys can't teach me much anyway. With that, Naruto just walked away to train by himself, leaving the team by themselves, but one of them was glaring at him. After that, they trained like this for a few days until one day Narumi went to confront Naruto after Kushina finished her training for the day and went to train Naruto. She found him practicing some taijutsu katas on top of the lake while she saw some clones reading some scrolls. He noticed her and asked, "What are you doing here?" "I came here to see if you were goofing off, but now maybe you might have some brain in that head of yours," said Narumi. "Seriously, you and Kenzo need to keep your ego in check before it comes and bite you back in the," said Naruto with a deadpan face. "What do you know? From what I can tell, you are still that attention-seeking brat from all those years ago. I can't believe that mom and dad still chose to keep you, because from what I can tell, you are still a disgrace to the family, so why don't you just go ahead and get out of our lives already? After all, that name you chose is probably for some no-name loser like you." As soon as finished that sentence she was flown back by a punch from Naruto, and boy was he pissed at how his own sister was talking to him like this, but this was the last straw and now he decided to give his beloved sister an overdue spanking she deserves. Narumi got up and then lunged at him, drawing her sword at him, which all he did was sidestep and gave her a trip which she stumbled a little but managed to get her footing straight. She turned around only to see a fist that connected to her face as she flew back a few feet before coming to a stop. She readied her sword for another strike only for Naruto to disappear and then gave her a roundhouse kick to the head, to which she rolled over to lessen the damage. She quickly flashed some hand signs and called out water style. Water drill bullet, which she shot water-like projectiles at him. Naruto dodged those projectiles easily as he flashed his own hand signs and then calling out water style. Dance of the Hydra. With that 8 serpents came out of the water and lunged themselves at Narumi. She managed to dodge some of it, but she got hit by 5 of the serpents, causing her to fly back, breaking some trees in the process. Naruto walked towards the damage area only to find himself being chained up. He looked to the side to see Narumi barely standing as she was panting hard. Naruto saw this and told her in a cold tone, "If you think your precious chains can hold me, then you've got another thing coming." After that he just ripped the chains that binded him with pure brute strength, which shocked Narumi before she was given another wicked right hook that sent her flying once more to the ground. Now Narumi was scared as she had never seen her brother angry before, and now here he was, ready to beat her to an inch of her life without a care in the world. But just before anything could happen, Kakashi and Kushina came out of nowhere and stood in front of her, readying themselves at Naruto. "Naruto, what the hell do you think you are doing to your sister?" said Kakashi. "Sister? Don't make me laugh, Kakashi. I only have one family, and that's for me to know and you to off." "What family? You only have us as your family," said Kushina. "Huh, now that's a good joke. Since when have I ever been part of your stupid family, you red hair bitch?" "That's enough, Naruto, now apologize to your mother right now," said an angry Kakashi. "I do as I damn please, you useless fanboy. Tell me this then, do you even know what my favorite food is?" Naruto asked. Kakashi and Kushina wondered about the question before answering. "Is ramen, isn't it?" said Kakashi, as everyone in the family loved ramen, but that proved to be a mistake. "Ha ha 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 ha. Oh, now this is too good to be true. I never liked that shit. Sure, once in a while maybe, but all the time, I am actually surprised that red hair women could grow eating that shit all the time, and now just proved my point. You guys don't give a monkey's nutsack at what I do. Sure, I played pranks around the village to get in trouble, but do you know why? It's because shitheads like you didn't even bother to look at me, and when I did the pranks, you just punished me and throw yourselves at the siblings, and look at them now. Kenzo is like that duck butt emo faggot, and Narumi herself is getting arrogant by the minute because she couldn't figure out the most important part of a shinobi, and that is deception. The only decent one is Naruto, because at least she cared about me a little. Why did you think that I sent a shadow clone to ask for her help only, you dense idiots? And furthermore, do you guys even bother why I never walked with you people? That's because I didn't want to be seen by a bunch of people that would give everything to someone while they forgot the other, and here I thought Uzumakis never abandon one another, but from what I've seen, Kushina-sama, you are a disgrace to that name, so I suggest you guys use that pee-wee size thing you call a brain and think before you flapped you lips like fish on dry land. Ranted Naruto as he released some of the anger he had bottled up for all these years, and with each rant, Kushina started sobbing uncontrollably until she dropped down crying. Kakashi saw this and tried to comfort her while Naruto just looked at them impassively. He walked away a little before turning his head a little and told them, "I won't be back for a while, so don't bother finding me and Narumi. I suggest you actually learn what happens around you, because this world is never black and white, so wake up and smell the roses, 'cause I ain't gonna be there if you fall." And with that he left for the day. I did this cause some might want a femme Haku, and since Inari's rant has been used too much, so I thought I could try this out to set the mood a little for when Naruto meets Haku. The morning after Naruto left. Morning came as a figure walked through the forest with a basket in hand picking herbs on the forest floor. As the figure walked deeper into the woods, it saw what appeared to be slash marks on the trees. Curious, the figure followed the slash marks until she reached a clearing, but this clearing was man-made as the area was surrounded by craters, fallen trees, destroyed rocks, etc. And in that clearing the figure saw a boy no older than she was lying on the forest floor in the middle of the carnage. The figure then recognized the boy as the one who beat Zabuza some time ago. It then got closer to him, contemplating whether to him or wake him until he spoke. If you're gonna try and someone, make sure that they are not really asleep. The figure got spooked a little but then calmly told him, I was just curious because I thought you were one of Gato's thugs. Don't worry, I am not, said Naruto as he looked at the figure in front of him, and he couldn't help but whistle because in front of him was a beautiful girl with silky long black hair, fair maiden-like skin, and wearing a pink kimono. But then begs the question, what are you doing out here, miss? Asked Naruto. Oh, I'm out here to pick some herbs for my friend. He is really sick and I don't have enough money for a doctor. I see. Well, name's Naruto. Date what's yours, missy? My name's Haku and I'm a guy, Naruto, said Haku as he thought that he would react the same way as others did in the past when they made a pass at her, but was shocked when she heard him say. And another piece of advice, don't bother tricking people like me because I can tell the difference, so want me to help you with it? Okay, I guess. And with that they spent the whole day picking herbs. As they were about to part ways, Naruto told her this. Tell Zabuza I said hi and to get ready for and kicking for a lifetime. He smirked when he saw her shocked face and he then disappear in a flash. Haku stared at the spot a little before grabbing the herbs and headed back to Zabuza. Naruto flashed outside of Tanzuna's house and then headed in. He saw his team eating dinner, but he saw some emotions ranging from fear and realization by Narumi to sadness and longing by Kushina, while Kakashi had a hint of both anger and sadness on his face. Naruto came up and said, Hey Oni-chan, where did you go? Naruto then answered that he was blowing off some steam and left it at that. Surprisingly, Kenzo didn't say anything, which was weird to him, but shrugged as he went to bed. I really need to control my emotions better cause that took more than I normally use, but then again I do feel a little bit relieved, like a weight on my chest was take off me. Oh well, time for bed, he thought as he slowly closed his eyes and fell asleep. The next day Naruto slowly opened his eyes as light shone into his room. Crap, how long was I asleep? But he was brought out of his thoughts when a scream was heard and he quickly grabbed his stuff and headed for the noise. Outside, Tsunami was in trouble as two guys who worked for Gato barged into her house and dragged her out so that she can be used as a hostage. Inari tried to save her but was backhanded by one of the thugs and now they were planning on raping her. Please someone, anyone help me, she prayed as she waited for the inevitable, but before anything could happen she heard someone shouted Magnum step and then a scream followed afterwards. She opened her eyes and saw Naruto standing there as he walked towards her and untied the ropes. She hugged him while saying thank you over and over again. After a while, she calmed down and Naruto asked her where are the rest. She told him they were at the bridge but they didn't want to wake him up so they went ahead first. Naruto nodded at her answer and headed for the bridge, but not before telling Inari for a job well done and that his father would be proud of him. He then quickly took off to the bridge. A thick fog was laced at the bridge as Tanzuna was sweating because he couldn't tell what was happening, only that he was nervous for some reason. Inside the mist, however, was a dome made of ice and inside it was Naruto and Narumi. Kenzo stayed near Tanzuna as a precaution while another side was Kakashi and Kushina fighting Zabuza. The fight was heating up as Zabuza tried to cut Kakashi, but he managed to block it with a kunai, to which Kushina tried to capitalize by coming to Zabuza's side and giving it a downward slash. It connected only for it to become a puddle of water. Zabuza was about to go for another clash before a shockwave of Ki caused him to back off a little. What the hell is this? Is it Kakashi or Kushina? No, it's more sinister than that. Zabuza wondered, but those weren't the thoughts of the two senseis. Is this the Kyuubi's chakra coming out? If so, who is the one using it? Was Kakashi's thoughts. No, it can't be. I need to hurry and finish him off and try to control it before it gets out of hand. Kushina thought as she hastily charged at Zabuza, hoping to end it. Inside the dome was Narumi holding onto a lifeless Naruto as she draw out the powers of the Kyuubi. "You'd her, you bitch, now I am gonna make you pay," said Narumi while she kept drawing onto the Kyuubi's chakra before she charged at the masked hunter Nin, who was inside a mirror made of ice. She thought that the ice would protect her, but that the punch connected and she was forced out of the mirror. She was shocked at what happened, but then another punch connected to her face as Narumi saw red because the person in front of her her sister. She was charging up a Rasengan, and when she was done, she charged at the Nin and was about to connect, by all of a sudden somebody grabbed her hand before the Rasengan hit her. She turned to see Naruto grabbing her arm and looking at her with an impassive face before she shouted, "What the hell are you doing? This is the person who'd Naruto, so let me go because I am gonna her." Naruto then look in Narumi and shake his head a little before asking, "Did you even bother to see where the Senbon needles hit Naruto before going all Kyuubi on her? Cause from what I saw, she is still much alive, isn't that right, Haku?" As he turned to see Haku's mask falling apart, showing her face that was in shock at his observation, but then she answered, "Yes, I never liked her in the first place, so I placed her in a sleep-like state." As soon as she heard this, Narumi calmed down till the Kyuubi cloak disappeared, and then she was panting a little because of using the Kyuubi chakra, but she was relieved as soon as she heard that Naruto was still alive. But before they did anything else, a loud chirping noise was heard, and Naruto and Narumi recognized it. Then they heard Haku said this, "I am sorry, Naruto, but I still have a job to do for Zabuza," as she shunshin towards Zabuza's position. Kakashi was about to Zabuza with his Chidori, but then he saw the hunter Nin coming out of nowhere. He tried to stop, but he couldn't, and before anyone knew it, Naruto came out of nowhere and grabbed Kakashi's hand to deflect the Chidori, while his other hand grabbed Haku as he turned while giving a kick to Zabuza's chest to get him out of the way. After registering what happened, Kakashi was about to ask Naruto something, but a clapping sound was heard and everyone turned to see a short man being led by a couple dozen thugs. Well, turns out the demon of the mist was nothing more than a weakling, because you can't a simple bridge builder. "Gato, what are you doing here?" growled Zabuza. "What do you think? You nins are so expensive, so I hired these thugs to cut you out of the deal since they only cost less than you do. Now go and them all except for the girls, since they will make a nice addition for the brothels," said Gato. The group was tired after the fight, but they have no choice because it was do or die. Kakashi was about to throw a tri-prone kunai before a sinister laughter caused them to see Naruto grinning like a madman as he walked towards the thugs. Kushina called out to him, but to no avail as he continued walking towards them. Play Jap by Abingdon School Boys. Instrumental. Look at this, boys. The kid thinks he can take us on. Let's show him a dose of reality. Yeah. The thugs charged straight towards Naruto, who was still walking slowly with that grin still on his face because through his eyes time slowed down for him, and when the thugs got close, he strike. "Woo woo. Jet X," Naruto called out as he cross-slashes forward with his 6 swords and then followed up with Phantom Dive as the shockwaves from it caused the thugs to be sliced in half because Naruto pumped more chakra in it. Those moves alone 9 men in one go, which caused a shock on their faces when they saw this, but they steeled their nerves and attack him once more in sheer numbers. Naruto grinned as he saw this and he said, "Come on. This dragon is just getting started, as he went to meet their charged. Inside out Budokai Banu Tatsu trigger. Naruto sliced one thug's arm off and gave him a kick which knocked him into another while he stabbed a guy behind him with his sword in a reverse grip before slicing from the waist down. Shomo my pride Nanti Gomi no Hai ni Sutet Hei Hei. Naruto followed the momentum to block a strike, then he saw a thug coming from his left so he used his free left hand to draw his sword on his right side as he turned in a circle which slashed another two thugs plus the one he blocked earlier within half. Isaigasai Karu Samurai it crazy. He then gave another thug a roundhouse kick to the chest before giving a double slash to another who tried to sneak up on him. Nanan no Kikan ga Unari o Aguru Nda. The thug dropped to show Naruto with his swords facing downwards to his left. Life it goes on to Doretta Sakai Dat. Naruto slowly stood with one of his sword on his shoulder while another was still facing the ground, both dripping in blood. Negaitaru Sono Mei ni. The thugs look at him wearily before they look at each other thinking on what to do next because this kid just took out a dozen men in a few seconds. Kase yo izune michi naru hui. Naruto just pointed at one of them with his sword and gave a come here taunt with it, the thug charged then the others soon follow. Naruto saw this and smirked as he sheathed one of the swords only to bring out two more in his other hand and thrust it using his speed shouting out. Untamed. Wakiagaru netsu to Kusabaru Tamashi ga mu no Shimetsukuru. Magnum Step Piercer. This move is just like the normal Magnum Step but Naruto pumped chakra in it so it created an extended sword made of lightning which ate thugs with it before giving his claws a swipe to rip out the men that were skewered by his swords. This momentum allowed him to follow up with his other move as he gave an upward slash to his enemies as he called out Death Fang, following that he gave a triple slash on another thug on the bottom. Some way. Moru hai no you ni there. I'll find my place. Under the radar I'm reaching for the sky. Instrumental. Once he landed, he quickly threw the swords on his hand in one swing which three more thugs coming towards him. Naruto then jumped back flip to prevent him from getting slash from the legs as he used his left hand and one swing, he beheaded another two men. The men's head dropped as the thugs realized that they were outmatched. Some of them wanted to run away. Gato saw this and shouted out about tripling their price. Suddenly the thugs got their second wind and charged at him throwing reason aside. Deep inside Buppane's Hanu Sasu frequents. Naruto grin even more as he appear in front of them and slash horizontally from right to lefting three of them in that swing then using the body as a weapon. He roundhouse kicked them which sent them flying towards their comrades as he jumped to give a downward slash to the one behind him. Beat rhyme flow dongan o mashingan e soden hei hei. Turning his sword into a reverse grip, he stabbed a guy behind him without looking and then he used his sheath to shoot one of his two remaining swords like a crossbow with the hilt facing forward hit a thug in the face which broke his nose if the blood was any indication. Ito Ryuden Kyokutu winds to blow down. The sword fell with the tip stabbing the ground as Naruto flashed a one-handed sign calling out wind style. Great wind breakthrough, with it a gust of wind blew some the thugs away. Michi Naki Michi E to Magate Susumu Nda. Time then stood still for Naruto as the thugs were slowly getting up to regain their footing as he still has his sword stuck in the guy behind him. As time goes by Oto no Yeba Damat. The thugs saw this predicament as now he was in a circle surrounded by them, all of a sudden they grin at this. Kirihiraku sono sake ni. Where o Michi bike Hikari no hui. Charge. One of them shouted as everyone charge onto his position leaving him no escape. Once they were close enough, Naruto spin his body as the sword got out of the body via forcefully slash out as Naruto called out. Untamed. Hakidasu Atami ni Shibareru Karada ga Mata Azuki Dasa. Lightning Storm Vortex. This moved through the thugs into the air, ethering or stunning them along with the dead bodies nearby, because this move combines both wind and lightning chakra to create a mini tornado to launch enemies into the air. Some way. Tozashita Hitomi ni now I face the change. Illuminate the glow I have inside. Blaze your mind. Naruto stopped spinning as he regained back his footing, and then he turned to see the remaining thugs and Gato looking at him with fear. He then slowly walked towards them. Yeah, do not be dominated, do not let him take you away, fight. Dohatsu Tensuku Reime Todoroki Bakuan, ride on. Do what you believe is right, do what you can do at a time, fight. Dosaru Kami no Shoute Kurawasuya Enda. Gato and his thugs were peeing in their pants right now, as this monster in front of them just wiped out 3/4 of their members, and now he is walking towards them as bodies literally started falling from the sky. They saw his clothes and his hair being painted red from the blood which was falling like raindrops, as he still has a grin on his face as he was looking at them like a sadistic man. One of them couldn't take it anymore and started running away, but then Naruto saw this and then charged as he grabbed his fallen swords along the way. Instrumental. He appeared in between the running man and his comrades. They widened their eyes as he called out Crazy Storm. Screams were heard as Naruto cut and rip apart anything he sees with his swords, and no man was safe from him. An archer tried his luck as he fired an arrow at him, but he blocked it and charged at him. He tried to run, but he was too slow as Naruto quickly cut his head off. He then saw a few more running away while some tried to jump off the bridge, but Naruto was having none of that, so he channeled lightning chakra towards his body, and then in a flash, he disappeared. Untamed. Wakiagaru Netsu to Kusabaru Tamashi ga Mun o Shimetsukuru. The thugs that ran away were shocked by Naruto's presence as he called out Testament. When he did a horizontal slash which created a blue sword-like aura that cut through them, and those that weren't was knocked back by the force. Some way. Moru Hai no you ni there, I'll find my place. Under the radar I'm reaching for the sky. Naruto used chakra strings to connect onto his swords, and then he swung it in a horizontal arc which those that tried to jumped over the railings. Naruto controlled the blades as he threw it upwards before recalling them in his hands and then sheathing them. Hagain no Kiba o Teru Meki to Koa o Age. Naruto walked towards Gato, was shivering in fear. He tried to bribe him, but then, I'm gonna live out my life untamed, fight. Naruto charged at him quickly, unsheathing his sword, and in one swing he cut his head off. The head flew as Naruto slowly sheathed his sword, and then the head hit the ground with a thud. End song. Everyone had a different reaction as Naruto walked towards one of the thugs who was alive. Narumi was shocked at the sight as she was putting Naruto down on the railings. Kenzo was starting to go green at it, while Tanzuna thought about swearing off drinking sake forever. Kakashi and Kushina wondered how did he get those just you to all those men, and wondered if he was okay aftering them. Zabuza and Haku watched with an impassive expression because both of them had seen people die before, but Zabuza was impressed by his skills. The thug that was alive was scared shitless as Naruto walked towards him. He was then grabbed by Naruto, who locked his gaze at him. Naruto told him in a cold and dangerously low tone, the reason I am letting you leave is so that you can pass this on to everybody. Naruto threw him down before shouting towards the sky, go and tell everyone that Naruto date, the one-eyed dragon of Konoha is here, and anyone who dares challenge me will fall before my blade, and their soul will be sent straight to the deepest part of hell, so run and spread my message to all, now go and get out of my sight. The thug started to run away in fear. When Naruto finished his sentences, lightning flashed behind him, adding the dramatic effect to it. Once the thug was out of sight, Naruto turned to see the rest of his team and Tanzuna staring at him before he started to thought to himself, this is gonna be a long week, as he carried Naruto on his back and motioned them to head back to the house to regroup. Somewhere in the border of Iwa, The thug ran towards a shop barging in, ignoring the rest of the people as he headed straight for the counter. The man saw his state and asked what happened. He shouted, "I need you to add someone to the bingo book now." "Okay, no need to shout. So what's his name that got you so riled up?" said the shopkeeper as he took out a pen and book. "His name is Naruto Date, and his moniker is the One-Eyed Dragon of Konoha," said the man in fear. After the death of Gato was known throughout Wave, the people started partying and celebrating for 2 days straight because they were free. During the party, Naruto was a happy camper as he outdrank everybody in Wave while somewhat getting a fan club at the time, though they only stare him like a piece of meat because Kushina and Naruto somewhat glared at them to back off, and even Haku joined in sometime. Even thought at the time she didn't know why, but Zabuza just told her that her heart was reaching out to her, to which she blushed at the meaning. But that was not all that had happened. On the third night of Gato's death, Zabuza called Naruto so that he could have a chat with him. "Hey kid, I know Haku decided to go with you guys, but I'm not coming," said Zabuza as Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Let me finish. She doesn't have a good life and I want her to stop running because of me. I know you will take care of her when I leave for Kiri to help against the rebellion, but before that I want to have a last spar against you with nothing more than our swords. No ninjutsu, genjutsu or anything else. So what do you say, kid? Want to give me a farewell fight before we part ways?" he asked, grinning. Naruto returned the grin and told him, "Come on old timer, let's rock." Once that last word was said, they clash. Power versus power as they try to push one another down with brute strength before they pushed each other back and ready their stance for another bout. The stare-down was intense and a single leaf was all it took to start it. They charged at each other and then their swords clashed once more as sparks came from the deadlock before Naruto used his free hand and used a quick draw on his other sword. Zabuza saw this and managed to dodge, but only barely, as he had a small nick on his stomach. Zabuza returned the favor by giving him a back roundhouse kick to the chest, and Naruto skid a few feet before stopping as he looked to see Zabuza thrusting his sword at him. Reacting quickly, Naruto rolled to the side and quickly recover, only to put his swords up in a X shape to block a downward strike from Zabuza. He pushed the sword back and gave a little spin before thrusting both swords at him, but Zabuza just blocked it with the flat side of the blade, but the force was enough to push him back a little. That gave Naruto an opening to use Zabuza's sword as a leverage to jump above him as he gave a downward slash with both his swords. It connected and on Zabuza's back had 2 slash marks on his back from his right shoulder to his left waist. Zabuza grunted a little from the attack as he gave a roundhouse swing with his sword, but Naruto just backflipped over it. Zabuza didn't let up as he followed it up with another swing, to which Naruto managed to block it with his sword but was sent down to the ground because of the force behind it. Naruto recovered again as he charged and gave a cross sweep to Zabuza's legs, to which he just jumped over it, but that was his mistake as Naruto feigned that attack and gave an upward thrust towards Zabuza. Zabuza's eyes widened a bit as he saw the swords coming at him as he leaned back, but the swords managed to hit one of his legs. Once he landed, he dropped to one knee because of the wound, but instead of anger, he was grinning as the swordsman in him was shivering with excitement because of the warrior in front of him. "Ha ha ha, now this is a fight, kid, so come on, show this demon the power of your dragon and let us see which is stronger," shouted Zabuza. "Well, come on, I ain't getting younger, old man," answered Naruto as his grin got wider that it could split his face into two. The sky sudden pick up wind as these two ready themselves for the lat clash, but unbeknown to them they managed to get a small crowd, which was Team 11 along with Haku, as they watch a rare kenjutsu match between two men who have honed their respective arts, as different thoughts rang through their minds. How did Sochi get this strong? Even thought, I am happy about it, but I'm sad that he managed to do this without our help, thought Kushina. Naruto, just how strong are you? Was Kakashi's thoughts. Ni-chan, Naruto thought in worry. The two stare at each other as the winds pick up even harder, but that did not deter the two men in the clearing when a lightning flash out of nowhere. As if on cue, both charge at each other. Time slowed down for both of them as they saw the beings that made them what they are today. For Naruto, he saw a blue demon ready to cut him in half, and for Zabuza, he saw a white and black dragon ready to feast on his next prey. They came closer and closer until they clashed, and everyone was holding their breath as both of them were facing back to back of each other. Naruto dropped to his knee first as a gash appeared on his cheek. Zabuza grinned and told him this, "Kid, you better take care of her or I am gonna hunt you down to the ends of the earth, you hear me?" "Sure thing, old man, now just lose already." And as soon as Naruto said that, Zabuza fell down face first to the floor as the match ended with Naruto winning as everyone ran towards the fallen men as the match of the decade ended. A couple days later, the bridge was finished and everyone was waving goodbye to Team 11 along with Haku as Inari cried a little, but Naruto reassured him that they will meet again in the future. Zabuza took some of Gato's money and returned to Kiri to help with the rebellion. Haku wanted to follow him, but he told her that he didn't want her to have the life he had, and after a tear-jerk moment they parted ways. "So, what should we name the bridge?" asked a villager. "What about the Super Tazuna Great Bridge? Which earned a boo to Tazuna," and he cried anime tears a little. "How about the Great Dragon Bridge, in honor of the one who freed us from Gato's rule?" said Inari, and then everybody cheered in agreement as the bridge was named on that day. It didn't take long for the group to reach Konoha because they didn't have any normal civilians, so they could run at full speed without any worry. Once they reached the gates, they gave their id and then headed to the Hokage office. In there were Jiraiya and Tsunade as they were waiting for the team from coming back from their first C-A-ranked mission. They were happy that they made it home safely as Kakashi and Kushina started telling their story in wave, but Kushina was hesitant in telling what Naruto said to her, with most of the occupants noticing it, but Kakashi's face said that they will tell them later. They nodded, to which Naruto scowled a little as he know that he is gonna have a talk with them later. Once they were finished with their report, faces of shock and confusion was on their faces as they heard that Naruto slaughtered a lot of men and managed to win a fight against Zabuza. Momochi alone was enough for them to ask a few questions about it, but the file it for later as they handle the extra person at the moment. "So, Haku, if you wish to join our village, you must be on a 3-week probation and a trip to our I&T department for a few days. Sorry, but it's protocol. I wouldn't mind that, Hokage-sama, but I would like to join the medical corps when I finish the probation." And those words brought a grin on Tsunade's face as she was looking forward for another medical nin to teach. Once they ended the report, Minato dismissed the team except for Kakashi, and in turn Kakashi told Naruto to stay outside for a moment. Once that was done, Kakashi told them the empty part of the story, and when that was done, most of the occupants in the room were sad a little but also a little angry at how Naruto thought about his family like that. Minato then dismissed the Anbu before calling Naruto in. When Naruto entered, he saw that the room was a little tense and he knew Kakashi told them everything. "So, what did the fanboy told you?" asked a bored Naruto. "Naruto, that's not how you should treat your sensei, but nevertheless he told us everything and I am shocked that that's how you see our family. You should know that your siblings needed more time with the Kyuubi in them, so stop saying stuff like that when you know your mother and I love you and we don't want you to get hurt when we are training the triplets," said Minato. "He's right, kid. So how about you apologize to your mother and sister and wait until they are finished with their training, then they will teach you, okay Naruto?" said Jiraiya, hoping that it might help, but was put out of it when Naruto started to laugh. Hehehehehe. H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H. Naruto continued to laugh as the occupants in the room look at him in confusion. "Oh, now that's funny. Saying stuff like you love me, what a joke. Like I told that red-haired bitch, since when did you guys ever notice me? Every goddamn time it's always the siblings that you listen to, not me. You say you love me. Ha, what a joke. You could have given me a scroll to read, or I don't know, maybe using some shadow clones to teach me, but you had to focus your attention towards the triplets and you have the nerve to give a lame excuse. Did the ceiling shrunk both your brain and balls? Cause from I can tell your ego crushed your spine, because from what I can tell none of you have the guts to admit your own mistakes, so let me tell you this. You can take your excuses. Naruto said as he held up his hand pretending to hold something. Shine it up real nice. He turned the imaginary object a little. Turn them son and bitch sideways and stick 'em straight up your candyes. Naruto said, and then some chanting of Rocky was heard by Naruto only, and when he turned to find nobody there, he shrugged before continuing, but he was cut off by Jiraiya. Now listen here, kid. You shouldn't talk like that to your own father because he has to make the tough choices here, so shut up and listen properly, because your siblings are needed so that they could change the world, and if you could stop whining, then maybe we can teach you something worthwhile after your siblings' training. With Tsunade adding her 2 cents in. Yeah, so now you are going to apologize right now to your mother for being a kid throwing a tantrum. Now I know you are angry, but that was all she could say before Naruto put his hand up in a stop sign before continuing. Seeing as I was not done taking, you should know your role and shut your mouth. To which another round of cheers was heard again by Naruto, but he ignored it. As I was saying, he may make the tough choices, but does he admit them? No, he doesn't. Why? It's because he only took the easy way out, and you thought that I don't know about that useless prophecy you preach so much about, but guess what? I've known about it since I was 4, dipshit, and let me tell you this. People that focus too much in that kind of stuff are people that have no sense of direction and need somebody to hold their hand with while they are crossing the road, and looks like you are one of them. Does the toad sage wants his bottle, or does he need help to change his diapers? And don't think I forgot about you, old hag. You say I throw a tantrum, then what about you? You care more about the dead than the living because you keep hiding behind somebody and not the genjutsu you put up, so how about you move on, bitch, cause the dead aren't coming back. If you keep this up, hell, you might end up like the fanboy over here, and you know what, you are wrong about that because I'm not angry. Which confused the people even more. No, I'm not angry right now. I was angry when you neglected me. I was angry when you trained them instead of me. I was angry when you holes took my birthright. Right now I am pissed because you think that you can boss me around like a little kid, but newsflash, people, I am not a kid. So since you like prophecy so much, let me give you one right now. Naruto then changed his voice a little and continued on. On the day where both the sun and moon meet, the hero of the leaf will fall by his own flesh and blood he betray, but before he fall, he shall see his family fall first before the might of the Forgotten One, as he shall use the powers of light and darkness to destroy them in both mind and body, and once he turn to the hero of the leaf, he shall burn his very soul to the ground as the hero watch his own kin took everything he know and love. And believe me when I say that I will make this prophecy come true. Believe it, so go ahead and try me if you dare, said Naruto as he walked out the door, leaving a stunned group of people in there. You don't think he might do it, do you, sensei? Asked Kakashi. I'm not sure, Kakashi, but I think he just need to cool off, so don't think too much of it, said Minato, unsure. Just in case, Gaki, I think I will head over to your house for a bit just in case. You coming, Tsunade? I don't think so, Jiraiya. Leave me alone for a bit, answered Tsunade as she walked out of the room to clear her head a little. I'll try and talk some sense into him once he cooled down a little, sensei, and maybe he will see that we are right, said Kakashi, to which Minato nodded and he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Training ground. Naruto was meditating a little as he tried to calm down a little, but that could only go so far, and he hoped that someone would come and become his punching bag, and as if Kami was listening to him, Kakashi appeared right in front of him and he grinned. Naruto, listen here, Your rants stop right now, so be a better man and apologize to your family right now because sensei is right, and if you listen then maybe you could have them teach you something, said Kakashi as he thought that Naruto would listen. Naruto looked at him like he grown a second head, but then an idea popped into his head. He grinned a little as he draw his sword out and pointed at him saying, "Come make me bitch." Kakashi got the idea a little as he shown his Sharingan to Naruto, who just smirked and then disappeared before appearing on top of Kakashi with his sword poised to stab him. Fast, Kakashi thought as he rolled out of the way to safety, but that was short-lived as Naruto called out electrical breakdown as his sword stabbed into the ground, creating a dome-shaped shockwave which knocked Kakashi back a few feet, hitting some trees before stopping. Kakashi recovered, but only to see Naruto's sword thrusting at him in a reversed angle. Thinking quickly, Kakashi managed to KAMAWARI with a log to get out of harm's way, and when he did, he saw Naruto thrusting the sword at the log as he called out lightning thruster, and the log was obliterated along with the trees behind it. Kakashi saw the damage done and he made a mental note to dodge those kind of attacks, but was brought out of it when he saw a lightning dragon heading straight for him. He quickly made some hand signs and put his hand on his mouth in an O shape as he called out wind style, wind dragon justu, and a dragon made of wind clash with the lightning dragon. The dust settled down and Kakashi saw that Naruto was nowhere to be found. As he frantically searched for him, his danger sense told him to jump, which he did to see Naruto coming out of the ground intending to drag him down but couldn't. Kakashi landed and had his kunai drawn in both hands as he watched Naruto carefully and plan his next move. Naruto just clapped a little while retaining his grin as he told Kakashi this, "Not bad fanboy, but this party is just getting crazy." As he charged at Kakashi with his swords in both hands and then slashing at Kakashi relentlessly, and when Kakashi managed to push him back he noticed that he was in a predicament as Naruto didn't even look winded, but he was riddled with cut marks, though shallow, but he was breathing hard because he couldn't keep up with him. Kakashi did a last-ditch effort as he created two shadow clones and had them surrounded Naruto in a triangle formation, which Naruto raised an eyebrow to before they did hand signs in the calling out the moves. Fire style. Grand Fireball Justu. Water style. Water Dragon Justu. Wind style. Giant Air Drill Bullet. Naruto watched on as the justice came right at him, but he made no effort to move, but instead he just sheathed his swords and then got into a quick draw stance. He smirked as he whispered, "Judgment cut." Kakashi looked on as his just you was about to collide, but then all of a sudden the justice were all cut somehow by an unknown force, to which all of them were cut into pieces and harmlessly passed by Naruto. Kakashi was shocked at what happened, but then he felt his danger sense coming, but he was too late as he felt that his body was slashed in different places and that his clones also poofed away. He tried to get up but only managed to get to his knees. "Well, looks like I need more work on judgment cuts since I didn't give you much damage than I hoped, but don't worry, I plan to do something even more humiliating to you," said Naruto, which Kakashi looked in shock as the move Naruto used wasn't even finished if he heard it right, but the next one was the one that gave Kakashi a heart attack as he saw Naruto got into a stance he is all too familiar with, along with an all too familiar chirping sound as he saw Naruto using his own move, which he called Lightning Blade. Naruto saw his look and smirked. "What do you think? Not bad huh, but wait, it gets better." Naruto then charged his entire arm in lightning chakra and then he created a sword from his elbows, and that was the cake as Kakashi saw that Naruto has just evolved his own move. "Like it? I haven't named it yet, I only finished it 2 weeks ago in Wave, but don't worry, you get to have it firsthand." Naruto then charged at him with the intent to, and as he was about to hit Kakashi, a blur came out of nowhere and managed to get Kakashi out of the way, to which Naruto just pierced the tree and then the tree was broken in half as Naruto made a slicing motion with his lightning-coated arm. He frowned as he thought about what Naruto told him but was taken out of it when his wife greeted him. He returned with a forced smile, but she saw through it and asked him what was wrong, and he told her what happened today. Shocked would be an understatement on Kushina's face when she heard what Naruto said after she and the siblings left, but then her face frowned as she knew why he said it, but she somehow couldn't blame him for it and tried to comfort her husband about it until an idea came to her. "Hey Minato, isn't the Chunin exam in a couple of weeks?" asked Kushina. "Yeah, so." Minato answered, no, getting the point. "I was thinking about signing them up, and before you start saying anything, this could help mend the relationship between our son, because the exam is based on how well the teams work together, and that might somewhat force them to work together so they could win. With it might mend some relationship they lost, so how about it?" Minato thought about it for a while and agreed to it, sadly because of what Naruto told him, but he figured that this might have a slim chance of Naruto not destroying his siblings and maybe prevent him from destroying the prophecy, which he still thinks is the younger siblings, and with that ended their conversation for the day. 2 weeks after that, Naruto was walking down the road as he was going to his team meeting, and along the way he saw Naruto walking with Narumi towards him. They greeted each other before they continue walking, but Naruto noticed that Narumi was more quiet than usual, but he knew why, because of the spanking he gave her during waves, so she had an idea what happens when you piss him off. They were walking down the road until Naruto stopped and said out loud, "You know rocks aren't that square, Konohamaru." All of a sudden a large poof of smoke came from the rock and out came 3 kids who started coughing. The one with the oversized scarf said, "Udon, you put too much smoke." The nerdy one, identified as Udon, said, "Sorry Konohamaru." Naruto shook his head a little while smiling at their antics before asking them what they were doing out here instead. "Well boss, we wanted to see if you could play ninja with us," said Konohamaru. "Play ninja? How old are you, Ni-san?" said Narumi. Naruto raised an eyebrow at what Narumi called him, but he dismissed it and then nodded his head towards the trio. They cheered, then ran away, and after that Naruto chased after them, followed by Naruko and Narumi. They were about to turn into a corner before they heard Konohamaru shouting at a guy to put him down. They ran quickly to see Konohamaru being held by the neck by a person wearing a catsuit with makeup on his face. "That hurt, you little shit. I'll show you what happens when you crashed into me," said the person wearing the catsuit. "That's enough, Kankuro. Let's get out of here before he sees us," said a blonde girl whose hair is tied into 4 ponytails. "Shut it, Tamari. I need to show him some humility," Kankuro told the blonde now known as Tamari. He was about to grab something from his back before he felt steel on his neck, and he heard someone said this to him in a cold tone. "I suggest you put him down before I have to take your head off for threatening the grandson of the 3rd Hokage. Got it? Nod if you understand, freak." Kankuro nodded, even though he was angry at being called a freak, but being insulted is better than being dead. "Good. Now let him go before I let you see the death god up close and personal." Kankuro dropped Konohamaru and the kid quickly ran behind Naruto, and so did the other 2. Naruto sheathed his sword and walked back towards them before he looked towards a tree and said, "Aren't you 3 gonna come out, or are you gonna sit and stare?" "Well, in the redhead's case, stand and stare." When they saw a person coming out of the tree in sand, they were shocked to see a redhead with the word love on top of one of his eye and a gourd on his back staring at them, along with Kenzo and Sasuke coming down from the treetops glaring at Naruto for a bit before turning their attention towards the redhead, as they never noticed him until now. The redhead then spoke, "Kankuro, you're a disgrace." Kankuro tried to protest before he told him to shut up. As they were about to leave, the redhead looks at Naruto and asks him this, "What's your name?" Before Sasuke or Kenzo said anything, "I wasn't talking to you, I meant him because mother says to stay away from you for now." "Well, since you ask so nicely, my name's Naruto and I'm the one-eyed dragon of Konoha, so tell that raccoon dog to heal before I make him heal. Got it?" The two behind the redhead looked shocked at what he said, but the redhead didn't show any emotion before saying this. I will be sure to look forward to prove my existence with you, and my name is Gara from Suna. And with that they walked away. Kenzo turned to him and asked, what do you mean by raccoon dog loser? Ask your own tenant and find out. Naruto said cryptically before they went to meet up with their sensei. When they got there, they saw that Kakashi was limping a little and wondered what happened, except for Naruto, who had a shit-eating grin on his face. They then handed them some forms to sign, as they told them they signed them up for the Chunin exam the day after tomorrow, and everyone had a look of excitement on their faces when they heard it, but for different reasons to be told at another time. After signing the forms, their senseis told them to go to room 301 on that day, and they finished their team meeting for the day as they went back to prepare for it. Day of the Chunin exam. The siblings headed towards the building that the test was in, and they headed in. When they reached a floor that had a door labeled 301, they were skeptical about it before they realized that it was a genjutsu and were about to leave before Team Emo shows up and called their bluff along with Kenzo, which earned a facepalm from the rest of the siblings. Sasuke and Kenzo were then challenged by a spandex-wearing person who had caterpillars for eyebrows, and being the pompous they were, they accepted. Naruto shook his head and then went up to the real room with Naruto and Narumi following behind. They reached the top to see their senseis waiting for them. They told them why they were waiting for them, and when they heard that they all came together even though Kenzo was busy, they managed to get in. The door opened and they felt some ki shooting at them, but Naruto just looked at them with a deadpan face at the ki they were unleashing, so he used some of his own, and when he did, the genin wannabes nearly shit in their pants as they saw a dragon looking at them like pork chow, except for a few who had different ideas about it, and one of them was a team from Kumo, and despite their rivalries between the two villagers, they managed to have some kind of compromise with each other, as did Iwa, but they didn't come for this year's exam as they hold some resent towards the fourth Hokage. Cool. He managed to scare the rest off by using his Ki, but I don't think that's his full power. Thought a busty blonde with an asymmetrical bob style with the front bangs reaching her shoulders. She wears a very low-cut outfit which displays her sizable cleavage, with mesh armor underneath, a short skirt and red hand guards, high boots, and what appears to be a modified Kumogakure flak jacket that covers her stomach only, similar to a girdle. She also has a tanto strapped horizontally to her lower back. Wow. Never thought I see someone who could do that. Maybe he's the one my grandma told me stories about. Thought another blonde whose hair is tied into a twin pigtail reaching her waist. She was wearing a skin-tight bodysuit that's open very low in the front, bearing half of her and some of her legs. So, is this the person that is said to be my ultimate rival master? Thought a black-haired man who has 2 cross spears on his back. Couldn't find a description on his clothes, but he is wearing exactly like Sanada Yukimura. Once Naruto was done scaring the class shitless, he then turned his eyes towards the team from Kumo, especially the one with the spears on his back, and the person did the same. As if on cue, they started to walk from their positions towards each other, ignoring those around them, and when they were about a few tables apart from each other, an unlucky team of genin were about to be eliminated before the test start, as one of them accidentally dropped a kunai he was playing with on the floor, and as he was about to pick it up, hell broke loose. Junin lounge one room from the testing rooms. So, how do you think that they will fare in the test? Asked Kurenai. They will be fine, we did train them after all, right Jin? Answered Asuma. Don't think so, cause I got the short end with a screaming banshee, an emotionless freak, and the I thought was decent as obsessed withing his brother, said Jin as a raincloud appear on his head. Like Asuma said, we have got to have faith in our teams, said Kakashi with Kushina thinking about her children in the test. But before anyone else could say anything, 2 people came flying from a wall, crashing into a table some Junin were sitting in. They saw that they were some of the genin taking the test and they turned to see what was going on and the sight inside the room shocked them a little. Testing room. A genin was shaking in his boots as he was about to pass out from the sheer amount of pressure he was in. Why? 'Cause the poor soul is stuck between Naruto and the spear wielder with their weapons drawn in a deadlock as Naruto used all of his 6 swords and stabbed them between the guy's cross spears. They were pushing each other towards the limit and everyone in there could have sworn they saw a dragon and a tiger looking at each other as if waiting for a signal to tear each other apart. The deadlock ended when both of them pushed each other apart and the skidded a few feet before stopping. The genin look in shock as what happened just now, especially their own teammates, as they never saw them like this because both of them had a look of a predator ready to on their face. But before any of them continue, a puff of smoke appeared and a man told them to stop in a loud voice and sit down. The two backed down a little but Naruto asked him this, "What's your name?" The spear wielder said, "My name is Raito Yukimura, the tiger of Kumo, and I know who you are. Naruto date the one-eyed dragon of Konoha, high A-ranked nin in the bingo book, foring over 50 bandits in wave." Naruto raised his eyebrow a little because of what he said, but he was happy cause he was already on a spot to be noticed by other ninja in the nations. After that they took their seats and the test began. I'm gonna skip this part since it's mostly boring, but it's somewhat the same as the anime, only Kenzo used the speech and Naruto was playing poker with some of the examiners and cleaning them out by the way. Before Ibiki could continue, a blur flew into the window and there was a banner with the words, "The sexy and single Anko Muratashi." Not sure that I spelled her last name right, but if so, sorry. And a woman wearing a questionable clothing with a pineapple-style hair was standing on the table. After a weird situation between her and Ibiki, she told them to head for Training Ground 44. Training Ground 44. After a dramatically brief explanation of the rules, the genin team headed into their respective tents to get the scroll. Naruto coincidentally dropped the scroll to let them know they got an earth scroll, and Naruto saw some of them were already gunning for them, which he smirked as this was part of his plan. As they got ready, the proctor for the test gave the go signal. A little into the test, the team were attacked by a no-name genin squad, but they managed to beat them and got their scroll, which was the one they needed, so wasting little time they headed straight for the tower. They were jumping from tree to head for the tower, but all of a sudden a gust of wind appeared out of nowhere, blowing them down to the ground, but Naruto was the one who landed on their feet. They then saw a grass nin appearing out of nowhere. She told them to fight like their lives depend on it with their scrolls on the line. After that she swallowed her scroll down her throat and then she unleashed her ki, which sent most of the siblings down on their knees panting for air as they have never felt anything like this before. Not before anything else could happen, they heard something even more sinister as an even bigger ki was unleashed, but the siblings weren't too affected by it as this one cancelled out the other, but it made their entire body shiver in fear. They turned to see the source and there was a sight to behold as they saw Naruto looking like a madman as he stared into the grass nin as his body was shivering in excitement, but what took the cake was what he said next. "Ha ha 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 ha. Finally another one that can give me a good time, and this one has a price on his head. Now this is really my lucky day, isn't it, Orochimaru?" The one now called Orochimaru started to peel of his skin to reveal a confused person with pale skin and long black hair with a fork-like tongue chuckling at them. "Well, looks like the so-called failure of the fourth Hokage isn't so stupid after all, but what makes you think you can take me on? How about I show it, faggot? Narumi, Naruko, Kenzo, get out of here because I can't guarantee that you guys won't come out of here unscathed," Naruto said sternly. Kenzo tried to protest, but Naruto just knocked him out with a chop to the neck and carried him as she and Narumi fled, leaving Naruto behind to fight with him. Orochimaru wanted to give chase but was stopped when a lightning strike came out of nowhere, stopping him in his tracks. He turned to see Naruto holding his blade like a yakuza as he shook his finger and said this with a shit-eating grin on his face, saying this, "Ah. Orochi-chan, You're not leaving until I kick you from here all the way to Kumo Freak, so get ready cause this party is just getting started. Naruto made it to the tower where he saw his siblings there waiting for him. Kenzo woke up a few minutes earlier and started ranting on how he should be the one fighting Orochimaru and not Naruto, which irritated his sisters to no end as Naruko was itching for her tanto, I think that's what's called, and Narumi's eyes started twitching uncontrollably. Before anything could happen, Naruto managed to arrive to their relief and then proceeded to throw the scrolls down, and then a poof of smoke came out. In it was Kushina, and she was proud that her children managed to pass the second round even if one of them didn't like her very much. Later she told them to stay in the tower until the test ended. When they entered, they saw that the Suna group was already there, which irked Kenzo a little as they were not first but held it in. Next to came in was the Kumo group, which Naruto and Raito started a stare down before walking away. Naruko, who was curious about this interaction, asked him, "Hey Ni-chan, why are you and him look like you are about to tear each other apart?" "It's personal, Naruko, maybe I'll tell you about it someday, but for now just let it go," answered Naruto, which she did. After that group was Shino's team, and following them was Ino's team, and after that was Neji's team. Lastly was Sasuke's team, but they look worse for wear. But Naruto knew that they ran into Orochimaru before his team but didn't pay much attention to the whining crybaby and his pet bitch, but he did keep a small eye out for Sai cause he looked like something was up and he knew that he was gonna report to that one-eyed mummy about it. Days later, all of the teams were now standing in a large room that had 2 balconies on each end along with their senseis as Minato came out along with Tsunade and Jiraiya standing beside him with Hiruzen following behind. He looked onto the crowd before noticing his children among them and then frowned when he saw Naruto, but he didn't put much to it and then told them why the exams are held, much to the shock of most people. Then he passed on to the next proctor, who was a sickly guy with a sword on his back, and then he explained the prelim rules because they had too many people, so he asked would anyone want to quit and not to worry as it is gonna be individual matches, and most quit, including a white hair guy who Naruto knew as Kabuto by his sisters as they met earlier in the first exam, but Naruto suspect he's Orochimaru's boy toy by the looks of it, so he was a little wary of him. Once all of them were done, the total came out. The proctor then said that there was an odd man out, so she must have a 3-way fight with another 2. "I'm not gonna do the cough thing on Hayate, sorry. Now we will see who is the odd one out," said Hayate as the screen started blinking at names until it stopped to show Naruto, which said person smirk and hoped to fight against Raito, who also had the same thoughts. The teams started to head up to the stands and then the screen started the first lot and everyone, including the clan heads who were there to see their children fight. "Canon fights I'm not gonna write because it's too troublesome," as Shikamaru would quote, "Hehe, so I just write the winners and the fights some are waiting for. Shino vs Dosu winner, Shino. Shikamaru vs Kin winner, Shikamaru. Choji vs Zaku winner, Zaku. Wanna get rid of the sound group first, that and I forgot most of the sequence of the fights. Tamari vs Tenten winner, Tamari. Konkuro vs Unknown Nin winner, Konkuro. Gaara vs Rock Lee winner, Gaara. Sakura vs Ino winner, double knockout. Stands. Everyone had a deadpan expression when the match ended, including the foreign Nin, and then Naruto voiced his ahem. Concern. "You know, I don't know whether the teachers pitied them or someone bribed them, but my money is on bribing in Sakura's case cause the only thing she is good at is fawning over an emo duck who has a stick so far up his it penetrated his brain causing it to shrink. Seriously, at least Ino has her family's just you even thought she's the same as her. Hell, even a blind and deaf man could beat them with his hands tied around his back." Which earned a nod from the kunoichi there and a sweat drop from Asuma and Jin, who both made a mental note to send them to Anko to sharpen up their skills and prayed that she won't scar them. They then turned back to the screen to see the next match, which then both Naruto and Raito frowned and everyone there looked at them weirdly but put it aside for now and turned back to the match. Kiba vs Raito. Yahoo! Come on boy, let's show those Kumo nin who's the best around here, said Kiba to Akamaru, who barked in agreement, and then they jumped down and pretend to look cool. Raito just slumped a little before walking down normally. Hayate waited for them to get ready, and when he saw that they were, he started the match. Hey, you ready to get your butt kicked by me Kumo nin? Said Kiba arrogantly. Raito looked at him with a, "Are you kidding?" look, which he then looked at Naruto and asked him, "How you want me to embarrass him, quick or slow?" Slow. He deserved it anyway since he needs a wake-up call, but don't hurt the dog too much since it's not his fault its master is so damn stupid. Answer Naruto, which got him a glare from Kiba and a few snickers from the rest of the group, including Raito, who chuckled at his expense. All right, that's it, said Kiba, who charged and threw a wild punch which Raito lazily dodged before he gave a knee to the gut. That caused Kiba to hunch over before Raito gave a kick to his, which caused him to fall face first to the ground. Kiba got up and tried to attack again but failed as Raito just kicked him in the gut before giving a kick that sent him upwards. As he came back down, Raito just kicked him straight into a wall partially embedded in it. The crowd looked in shock as Raito just manhandled Kiba like it was nothing, and Naruto just smirked at his predicament. Kiba managed to get out off the wall before falling down to the ground on his knees. He got up and glared at him before giving Akamaru some pills, and then his fur turned red and then he changed into Kiba. Kiba smirked as he and Akamaru charged at him as they called out "Fang over Fang," and their bodies were spinning madly like a twister heading straight for him, but Raito got bored at his opponent and decided to end it by using one of his spear and then giving a straight thrust to meet its charge. The people thought he was crazy except for Naruto and the Kumo group, and when the charge met, the whole room was shocked as Kiba and Akamaru was pushed out of the way and skidded backwards with their bodies. They tried to get up, and when they did, Raito unleashed a crimson aura slashed at them which connected with an explosion, and when it died down, Kiba was standing somewhat but Akamaru was down and out on the ground. Raito did a double take and was surprised that Kiba managed to survive, but shrugged before he sheathed back his spear and did some hand signs before shouting out "Fire style! Volcanic eruption!" and he slammed his fist to the ground. Then a series of booming noises started coming out from the ground as fire started coming out from the ground and headed for Kiba, who closed his eyes before that spot went boom. And when it did, Kiba flew up from the impact and headed straight down to the ground with a loud thud. The proctor stopped the match as he went to check on Kiba. When he found out that he was unconscious, he declared Raito the winner. Winner. Raito. Some of the people were shocked at how this nin managed to beat Kiba like it was nothing, and that he managed to dispel the Inuzuka's Fang over Fang with just a normal thrust of his spear, which made them a little weary except for Naruto, who smirked and gave his supposed rival a mock bow which he returned in kind, and that caused an eyebrow raised by their respective senseis. Raito's sensei was a blonde with pigtails like Kasuga, but she was wearing the normal Kumo nin clothes, and she was worried about Raito because of what happened earlier in the exams with the blonde kid with the 6 swords and eye patch, so right now she had to ask him about it. Raito, what happened during the first exam? I've never seen you like this before, so what's gotten into you? Asked the sensei. Well, Yugito-sensei, he and I kinda have a rivalry against one another because of our senseis, and leave it at that please, answered Raito to his sensei, which we now know as Yugito. Yugito looked at him for a moment before relenting because among all of the people, he was one of the few weird one other than her be with his rapping, so she dropped it as she looked back to the guy Raito has it out for, which she must say is quite handsome, before a voice spoke to her. Kiddin'. That is one piece of hunk right there, so come on, after this let's get him, tie him up and ride his brains out. Shut up, Nibby, thought Yugito to the voice known as Nibby. I am not gonna ride his brains out, so stop it. Which made the voice quiet down a bit, but that didn't stop it from sending images about it to her, which made her blush like hell before turning back to the match. Note Yugito will not be in the harem as it was already final. This is just Matabi talking. Closing parenthesis. Kenzo vs Hinata winner. Kenzo due to Hinata fainting, don't ask. I may like Hinata but for the most part she kinda when they were younger, no offense. That match earned a sweat drop from most people except for Hiyashi as he shook his head in disappointment at her, and by his side was Hanabi as they waited for the next match. Kasuga vs Samui. This put a shock to the Kumo team as both blondes look at each other before going down as both thought about the match right now because both of them were the best of friends during the academy and right now they wanted to prove who's the best. So Kasuga, you ready? Said Samui, and once Hayate started the match she got her answer when Kasuga threw her kunai at her. Samui dodged to her left and quickly drew her blade as she looked back at her teammate and friend who pulled back her kunais which was connected by some wire. Both of them stared each other down before Kasuga threw her kunai again but Samui managed to block it and then she charged straight at her. Samui went for a strike to the chest but Kasuga jumped back before flipping out some hand signs before calling out Earth style spike pillars as she put her hands on the ground and from it spikes started coming out heading straight for Samui. Samui did some hand signs of her own as she jumped over the spikes by pumping chakra to her legs and said, lightning style, lightning cutter, as she swung her sword which created a slash of lightning heading straight for her but Kasuga managed to jump out of the way only for her to get kicked from behind by Samui. She managed to roll through before ducking an overhead strike from her and Kasuga followed up with a kick to the gut pushing her back a little before throwing her kunai at Samui. Samui managed to block some of it but Kasuga managed to cut her a little but before Kasuga could pull her kunai back, Samui managed to grab a string and then send some electric current through it which shocked Kasuga. Samui capitalized on it by stabbing her blade at her. She was shocked when suddenly Kasuga started to turn into mud and all of a sudden Samui jumped away before a pair of hands came out from the ground prepared to grab her. As Samui landed she had to block another batch of kunais heading straight for her but instead those kunais landed around her. She looked at them curiously but her eyes wide when she saw explosive notes on them. Samui tried to get away but the notes exploded a little early and she was caught in it as she flew back from the impact. She opened her eyes a little and was quick enough to block an overhead kick. She countered by pushing her back and gave a roundhouse heel kick which she blocked and returned with one of her own. It didn't connect as Samui ducked under it and jumped to the side as she flipped some more hand signs and then called out lightning style. Storm Crusher and her fist slammed down to the ground and out came a mini crack in the ground followed by lightning started heading straight for Kasuga. Kasuga barely dodged it as the lightning managed to hit her leg which left a nasty burn on it. She cursed a little before noticing Samui was gone. Her instincts kicked in as she looked up to see Samui coming down on her with a lightning-infused axe kick. She just barely dodged the kick but the impact managed to push her back a little. She flipped some hand signs quickly when she saw Samui heading for her and when she ended it she called out Earth style. Earth Dragon Justu and with it a dragon made of earth came out from the ground and headed straight for Samui. Samui's eyes widened when she saw the dragon heading straight for her but that didn't scare her one bit as she made a last-ditch move with the last of her reserves as she suddenly encased her body in lightning and all of a sudden disappear from sight. Kasuga's eyes widened a bit before she felt a punch encased in lightning hit her gut and with that she blacked out from it and fell into Samui's arms. Samui looked as bad as Kasuga as she was panting hard from using the move with her current reserves but she managed to stay awake for Hayate to declare her the winner before passing out. Winner. Samui. Medics came in and quickly took the girls to the infirmary to get healed while the proctors started to fix the arena a little before starting the next match. Wow. Those two really know how to fight, said Naruto as Narumi nodded in agreement. Hey. So what, bet I could beat them just as good. Boasted Kenzo. Like hell you can. You couldn't even stand up to the might of an Uchiha Kenzo. Said a smug Sasuke. You wanna say that again, duck butt? Come on, let's go then. But before both could fight like children, the next match came out, and this was even more of a shock to all the Konoha people, as this was something worth to see in their opinion. Naruto vs Narumi. To say shock was an understatement for both the Uzumaki Namikaze girls, as both look weary at each other as they thought about the times they spar and thought back to realize that they never even went all out at each other, and was a little scared for the other as they did not like hurting each other, but they felt the need to prove to themselves and their parents that they can do it, and so with that determination that they headed down to face each other. Up in the Hokage stands, Minato and Kushina were a bit worried about having both their children fighting each other, but then they were reassured by Jiraiya and Tsunade somewhat, but she looked a little worse for wear as she was showing some signs of lack of sleep, but Minato had to guess what Naruto said to her that day, managed to get to her somehow, and then made a mental note to have a Yamanaka to check on her mentality after this before looking back down at the match. Both girls stood opposite to each other as they focus on getting to the next round while trying to not hurt the other so much. Hayate looked at both of them carefully, and when he was satisfied he started the match. A clash was seen as both girls used their swords and put themselves in a deadlock before pushing each other off. Narumi quickly used her chakra chains to attack Naruto, but Naruto countered by using her own chakra chains, which resulted in a clash as both chain wielders tried to use the chains to outdo one another, but the chains ended up getting tangled in each other, which resulted in another deadlock. Narumi ended the deadlock by calling off her chains and flipped some hand signs, and then called out water style, water drill bullet, and then she fired some water from her mouth and headed straight for Naruto, but she used her chains to block the attack, and she used her chains to attack Narumi, but Narumi countered by jumping back to the wall and used some chakra to stick to it as she saw the chains being embedded into the wall. Narumi sheathed her sword, and then in a small stroke of stupidity, she followed what her brother did with Zabuza's dragon and started to run on top of the chains, which startled everybody in the room except for Naruto, who grinned like a madman as he sees his own sister use a move he did. Naruto was momentarily distracted at the move but was able to regain her composure as she quickly flipped hand signs and called out wind style, air drill bullet, as she put her hand to her mouth in a shape before blowing in it, and air bullets headed straight for Narumi, who had no choice but to jump, but that went according to her plan as she finished her hand signs before calling out water style, water pressure shot, and fired a torrent of water at Naruto, who barely had enough time to pull a KAWAMARI before the torrent destroyed the all-ever-present log in the show. Naruto was at a safe distance away as Narumi landed, and she was panting quite hard while Narumi only looked winded a little. Naruto was wondering why she was more tired than Narumi before she realized that Narumi was letting her waste her reserves on her. She cursed a little before she saw Narumi charging straight at her with her sword in hand as she went for an upward slash, but Naruto jumped back and she returned it by using her own sword to give a slash at her chest, but Narumi managed to block it, but Naruto used enough chakra to create one chain and shot it straight for Narumi, who couldn't block it and was hit straight at her chest, and she skid back a little before Naruto somehow followed it up with an axe kick, which Narumi managed to block before pushing it back and called back out her own chains to attack Naruto. Naruto blocked most of the damage with her sword but was pushed back because of the force, which gave Narumi enough time for another just you. Naruto had a second to react when Narumi called out water style, water wave, just as she fired a giant wave of water at Naruto, who pumped chakra to her legs before she jumped over the water as she followed it by throwing some shuriken at her. Narumi blocked it with her chains and managed to dodge a downward slash from Naruto, and then using her sword she resumed their Kenjutsu clash. The people there were impressed by their performances. Both were quite evenly matched in skills-wise, and Minato and Kushina was gleaming with pride along with Jiraiya and Tsunade as they continued to watch the match. Narumi went for a slash but Naruto blocked it, and she followed it up with a roundhouse heel kick, which Narumi blocked with her arms as she pushed it away as she went for a downward slash as Naruto met it with an upward slash. The results were that the force caused both of them to lose their swords. They quickly jumped back after it happened and both were looking very tired from it. Both of them had thoughts about using the Kyuubi's chakra but decided not to as they had limited control over it and didn't want to risk it. Well, looks like both of us are almost out of energy Narumi, so how about we end this with a bang, said Naruto in between breaths as she looked on to Narumi, who made a silent yes gesture which confused the crowd until both of them quickly made hand signs and both of them called out water style, water dragon Justu, and suddenly two dragons made of water came out from the water made by Narumi, charged at each other, resulting in a loud splash of water. The clash ended and the crowd looked on to see both of them still standing, but then Naruto started talking. Looks like neither of us win, before both of them fainted, which then Hayate proceeded to take both of them to the infirmary along with the other teams. Winner. Double knockout. Stands. Looks like you did a good job training them, Gaki, said Jiraiya. Thanks sensei, but I feel kinda sad that none of them couldn't make it to the finals, said a solemn Minato, who was comforted by Kushina along with some of the clan heads, as some of them also hoped that their children could also make it to the finals. Don't worry Gaki, I'm sure both of them would make it next time, have faith, at least they has some experience for now, said Jiraiya as Minato smiled a bit but went sad again as he saw the last match card being played. Arena. Naruto vs Sasuke vs Neji. If anyone asks, I wanted to plan Naruto beating the people with their stick up theirs one at a time, but that would cause way too many matches and the match card in my head won't match, so I decided for Naruto to kick these two first before letting him fight someone else in the finals. Minato looked on as his oldest child had to go in a three-way fight, and after what he had done to Kakashi, he hoped that Naruto could understand and hopefully forgive them, but somehow in the back of his mind he knew it was gonna be a long time before that happens. Sasuke and Neji went down with a smug on their faces as they thought it was gonna be an easy win, as both of them brag about how powerful their eyes were and that Naruto was nothing more than the dead last in the class. Oh, those two poor delusional fools. Naruto just shrugged a little before jumping down from the railings as he loosened up his body, which was begging him to fight. Stands. Hiyashi sudden talked to his youngest daughter, look closely Hanabi, there is no Hyuga more pure-blooded as Neji is. Which was returned with a small nod. Arena. You should give up right now, the fates have decided that I'll be the winner, said the smug Hyuga. Yeah right, Hyuga. The Uchihas are the ones that will win, said an equally smug Sasuke. Would both of you please shut up? Hurry up Proctor and start the match already before Pink Eye and Crossdresser her start to bicker, and we all know that these two like to bark like the kittens they are, said an irritated Naruto, which earned some snickers from the crowd as both of them suddenly glared at Naruto, who just gave them the two-finger salute. Hayate sweat drop a little before starting the match. Neji in a burst of speed headed straight for Naruto as he activated his Byakugan and then hit Naruto multiple times before Naruto went into the wall. Get him out of here Proctor, he is done, said Neji as he prepared to fight against Sasuke, but all of a sudden a voice came out from the downed Naruto. What that all you got Crossdresser, your finger poke hardly made a dent, said Naruto as he got up and dusted himself off. The crowd looked dumbfounded as right now they saw someone completely walking out from a Jyuuken strike unharmed by a Hyuga, and in the stands Hiyashi made a deer caught in a headlight face while Hanabi looked a little confused. How is this possible? No one can withstand the Hyuga's Jyuuken strike, asked a shocked Neji, but Naruto just grinned before all of a sudden Neji felt a pain in his cheek as Naruto appeared in front of him and gave a wicked right hook which sent him flying across the arena and partially embedded him to the wall. The crowd was shocked at how Naruto could move that fast and gave a punch that sent Neji flying across the arena, but that deterred Sasuke as he tried to blindside Naruto by was welcome with a foot as Naruto leaned in front and gave a back kick in Sasuke's face that sent him flying to the other side of the wall. Silence ensured the room as the Konoha nins thought how Naruto managed to beat two rookies of the year, but Naruto just deadpan and sigh as he mumbled a little about how unfair or why them and so forth, but then Neji came out by a Kugan on as he tried to hit Naruto, who just lazily dodged it while thinking whether he should use his swords or not as he grabbed Neji's arm and judo throw him onto an oncoming Sasuke, who had an up close and personal look at how a floor feels when someone is being slammed onto it. Naruto just dusted himself off a little before looking down at the two in a compromising situation, PS 69 position, which most of the people laugh at except for Hiashi, who was fuming at how Naruto was toying with them like it was nothing and was getting worse as Naruto took the opportunity to take out his camera and took the photos for blackmailing. The two had a second to realize their situation after the camera clicked before quickly getting up and glared at Naruto, who was laughing at them with a camera in hand. "How dare you make fun of me?" said Neji and Sasuke at the same time. "Easy. You did it for me, Neji-chan, but hey, if you and Sasuke want to get it on, how about you do it after the match? I'm sure some of the nurses here would lend you their clothes so that you can nurse Sasuke back to health." Answer Naruto as everyone started to laugh at them, causing them to fume some more. Sasuke was livid as he activated his Sharingan and flipped some hand signs and called out fire style, fireball, just as he shot out a fireball as big as a human being at Naruto as he raised an eyebrow at it before ing his fist back and then punched the flames as he coated his hand in wind chakra and making it spin, thus when it connected the drill-like punch dispelled the fireball, which made some of the people in the room wide-eye at the kinda of control over wind that Naruto has. Sasuke was shocked for a moment before all of a sudden being launched to the air via Naruto's uppercut from out of nowhere, which he followed it up with a side kick towards Neji. Neji managed to block it but was pushed back by the force from it as he skid a little before stopping to see Naruto giving an axe kick to Sasuke, and he came plummeting down to the ground with a loud thud before landing on his feet and turned to look at Neji with a bored expression on his face as he motioned his head in a come on gesture, which Neji held back a little to analyze the situation he's in. "How the hell are you beating me? The fates have decreed me the winner, so how can you, the dead last, beat me, the former rookie of the year?" asked Neji angrily. "Easy, crossdresser. Because I'm good, real good at what I do, which is kicking and taking names, so come on Neji-chan, this dragon is getting hungry for some action." Answer Naruto, who charged straight at Neji, who was preparing his move as he waited for Naruto to come closer, and when he did, he quickly spun his body as he shouted out rotation, and all of a sudden a dome made of chakra appeared and Naruto went and got hit by it, sending him flying from it. Stands. "See Hanabi, that is the true power of the Hyuga," said Hiashi as he was pleased at how Neji managed to hit Naruto and hopefully putting him out of commission. Arena. Neji walked towards the down body of Naruto and then said, "See that? The fates have decreed me the winner. You should have quit while you had the chance. Any last words?" "Yeah." Boom. Answer Naruto as he suddenly glow and then exploded, which caught Neji in it, sending him back to the ground. He groggily got up as he saw Naruto leaning against the wall with a smile on his face as he said, "Explosive clones, you've got to love their effect on people, don't you think, crossdresser? Well, guess it's time to stop playing and end this. I've got better things to do than playing with you two jokers. You dare insult me, a Hyuga? The one's fates have decided to be the one superior than everyone. You are nothing more than the failed son of the Hokage, and you proved it by changing your surname into something more pathetic than that. I'll bet even that person is ashamed of his name, seeing as he is never seen with you. He probably thinks you are a failure like he is," said Neji, and those became his last words that he'll ever say today, when all of a sudden he was pushed down on his knees by an invisible force. he looked up to see Naruto staring him down with cold eyes that could freeze a river just by looking at it. Without even a word, Naruto appeared in front of Neji and he said something that made all the Hyuga paled when Naruto said, "You are within my range of divination lightning style, nerve strike justu." As Naruto started to strike Neji with his fingers coated in lightning and ended it with an uppercut. Neji descended, but that was not the end as Naruto spun his body like Neji's rotation, but he called out wind style. Wind dome justu, and he created a dome made of wind around him and hit Neji when he came down, sending him towards one part of the arena. Silence again ensured as the people there saw Naruto did his version of the Hyugas just you right in front of them, but was broken out of it when Hiashi opened his mouth and shouted of, "How dare you copy our just you?" Was all he could say before six swords pinned him towards the wall, with one of it stabbing it dangerously close to where the sun doesn't shine. Everyone turned back to see Naruto with a cold expression on his face as he said this. "I suggest you shut up, Hyuga, before I'm gonna do to you what I'm gonna do to Neji." When all of a sudden he threw some papers into the air and channeled some chakra into them. And they all suddenly surrounded Neji, who is trying to get up but failing to do so, and the last thing he heard before blacking out was this, ceiling style. Reign of the Lightning Dragons. I can't type Uzumaki ceiling or something like that since Naruto did drop both those names some if anyone is asking, and the paper suddenly shot out dragon-shaped lightning and headed straight for Neji, which ended in a blood-curdling scream along with an explosion which stirred the arena a little. The smoke cleared out to see Neji beaten and bloodied on the ground. Naruto was about to check his handiwork before ducking down to avoid a punch as he spun on his heels to give a punch to the gut to Sasuke before saying, "Looks like I forgot about you, but don't worry, I am gonna make this quick but very painful for you, so get ready." Sasuke lightning style, lightning punch barrage. Before he started to turn Sasuke into a punching bag as he caved his head in with lightning-infused punches and continued on until he uppercut him to the air. Naruto followed him up by jumping and then grabbed his throat with his hand and then proceeded to chokeslam him from that height, which caused another loud thud as Sasuke was now on the ground on his back.